is so fucking small.
In your court case, how much time do you spend on working on documents for your lawyers? Any ballpark? How much time do you spend over the course of the case? I don't even know if I can ballpark it. But over the past 6 months, I've done almost nothing, or not that much, very little. In the first 6 months, it was a lot of writing up like dozens and dozens of pages of context, or it took me a long time to dig out to figure out how to put logs together for everything, to hunt down video titles, and but like I had to do a whole write-up, like it was like a 15-page response to that shitty fucking expert witness they brought in to try to claim the Discord vulnerability thing or whatever. Just a lot of dumb shit like that.
And it bothers me. But yeah, no, any bit of help, I really appreciate it. Whether that's like a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 sub, a prime, or if you could donate directly to the GoFundMe, that all helps. Every bit helps.
Was there a specific format you needed to do stuff in? No, I know that QB Farms lawyer guy is saying it, and a lot of, but that's not really. No, I don't know why. It's just yeah.
Helps, and I get to fight this because of your guys' help. So thank you.
Because of your help, thank you.
I'll give you odds, Steve, if you want to do a bet.
On what? Whether she loses?
Yes.
Okay, 10 to 1.
You would need to give me like 10,000 to 1.
I'll do 10 to 1.
That's free money, Dan.
10 to 1, so 90%. How about 75 to 100? How about that? I think that's fair. 3 to 4.
Oh, that's almost 1-to-1 odds on you screaming about how confident you are every single day that she's 100% lost the case. Why the fuck would I give you 1-to-1 odds on that? No, what?
Activist judge.
5 to 1 at best.
All right, I'll take it.
Okay.
$1,000.
$100.
No, like, oh, well, fine. So you get 500, I get 100. But the thing is, you don't pay up though when you lose.
Really?
How?
I feel like there's been some bets and I haven't.
I feel like our ledger on anything else, you owed me like $20 or something because we made a bet on
I'd have to go back and.
We would have to go back and check. I feel like because we talked to the AI.
Oh, I think there was some big money on the Intel stuff also. You were like, "There's no way that Intel will go up. You're retarded. I'll bet you $1 billion." So like, you owe me $1 billion.
Intel? I don't know. Fuck. Nah. Now you lying. Now you lying.
I came in. I was wearing all Intel swag, and you called me a retard and said that I was.
Doesn't mean I bet on it.
Yeah, no, you bet on fucking Nvidia.
You're a liar.
You're a liar, Dan.
Shut up,
True.
Lucas.
He is lying.
Oh God. I don't know. There's just no chance that this wins. The only thing, like, I suppose he could settle since he settled with Caseytron, but then I don't know why he hasn't settled with Frogan, who I assume is more poor than Caseytron.
Maybe she doesn't want to.
Yeah, I mean, it could, but
yeah, you guys, I'll be the bookie.
There is no chance. Denims can't win this case. Like, if you think about it, it can't, because that would be the end of movies. You understand that, right?
There could be so many different things that go into any copyright
Tell me how it would be different, because
you're trying to compare watching a 1-hour video to a 1-hour Marvel movie. I don't know if all the 4 factors would play into this exactly the same way. And I feel like you could theoretically make the exact opposite argument that if Ethan Klein were to win this case, it could end all React content because now everybody can be sued for reacting to any video.
Totally different.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I think Dan would say it's probably because of how it was formatted. Like Ethan did it
the entirety.
Yeah.
It was the entirety of the work. It was a registered work, just like a movie. It was done with the intent to defraud. It was done with the.
Why do you mean when you say intent to defraud? Who's being defrauded?
Denims was dumb enough to say, "Do not watch it on Ethan's stream. Watch it on my stream," meaning you were defrauding by.
There's no fraud here. You could argue maybe like torturous interference or something. There's no fraud going on. Everybody knows that they're watching a React stream of Denims, and she doesn't have a contract or an agreement with Ethan. There's no defrauding here.
Well, I mean, what would you say that copyright infringement is?
I don't know. What, torturous interference or theft of copyright? I guess. I don't know. What is the what is the
cooked right now, Dan?
Shut up, Mooten.
Yeah, Moot.
Stop, Moot. You're bullying Dan too much. Stop.
You know, I don't even want to fucking do this anymore. You know what? We got our bet.
Now we fucking go.
Oh, because now, you know what? I got my bet. My money's where my mouth is. That's it. That's enough. That's enough. It's fine.
Jesus.
Just too much bullying.
that day because we went there late. We went there late. I think or like I said, a lot of the days fused
Yep.
together. I think we went there late, did the paperwork, and I went home.
Yeah.
And the next time they brought me to the site.
Mm-hmm.
Push a realist far enough and he comes into a nominalist. Push a nominalist far enough and he turns into a realist. What does that mean? Well, it means the same thing as if you investigate matter thoroughly, you turn up with mind. If you investigate mind thoroughly, you turn up with matter. So investigate you and you get the external world. And what happens if you investigate the external world? Well, you get you. How are things like when we're not looking at them? The act of knowing changes what you are knowing. Knowledge of something is the same as action upon it. You may just observe things and write them down. The really good knowledge is always accumulated by an action upon the world to see what changes that action makes.
So the next time you get in, you land, you go to the waiting room, I guess, or some type of compartment where they hold you until the bus comes.
Well, not at that time because the bus, the second time the bus was there.
On the tarmac?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or close to it. And again, I was with Dennis. And
Yep.
then, we went into a bus, which was a, navy painted school bus with blacked out windows and just sat down, right at the front seat, right where the, big bar is and sat there. And Dennis sat across from me, and the entire way we're driving down, there was like a 15, 20-minute drive or something south. Dennis is just staring at me, which is just as so I just
So
keep
creepy.
looking out the front window, and it's just a weird guy.
Huh.
Yeah. So
Maybe some type of intimidation technique?
Yeah.
Because that's something
I don't know.
You weren't a stranger to over there. Like they would, I've heard you say they would regularly like check you, like to almost like a fear tactic. Like they would, very military.
Yeah, certainly after that.
Yeah.
The security at S4 was like those guys train all the time and they're just waiting for something to go,
To go
wrong so
wrong.
they can do something. It's like, a football player training all the time and never getting to play a game. So
Yeah.
as soon as an opportunity comes up, they're excited. But then we went past where the hangar doors would be at S4 because I couldn't see those, and around the side, and we got out of the bus and went into a single door,
Yeah.
on the side of this hill. I mean, I couldn't really see anything. It was just,
Yeah.
a short area that Dennis led me into.
And sort of this like unceremonious, sort of unromantic entrance. So there's just like random door in a hill.
Dirt and it was just nothing. It wasn't, well kept or anything, and went in there and there was a, small room and, a guard desk and, very uneventful.
So while you're driving, you said you drove past the doors, the hangar doors. You didn't see them. Was
No,
that
not that time. I only realized I passed them
because of
in the future,
Yeah.
when I saw them. But yeah, once we made the turn, we had already passed those. But
we get to talk about this now because at this point everything will be, I think, available to talk about. But there's a picture of those doors. So by the time this comes out, that'll be publicly available. But that picture,
you're talking about Luigi's
yes,
image?
yes,
Oh yeah. Or I mean, there's also a guy that, did that on Google Earth.
Yeah.
And yeah.
But there's the Luigi's image.
Yeah.
one-
That's perfect. It's exactly the way it looked.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, he's had Ron Masters, who is a spectronomy expert, look at the pixels and everything else, and deem this to be authentic. That those are indeed anomalous shapes.
Oh, right.
They're not natural, and you can count 9 doors. I mean, that is an incredible piece of vindicative sort of like just information that completely exonerates that whole story for me. How did that feel when you saw that picture for the first time? Did that stir anything in you?
I mean, it was It's always great to be vindicated by, to some degree, but to me, I already know that's the way it is.
Yeah.
So it's hard to impress me about that. Hey, what you said is right. Yeah, I know. So
enough. Fair
right.
enough.
So I can't get too
Yeah.
excited about it. But it's nice to see less people saying you're absolutely full of shit.
Yeah. 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 When I saw that, I mean, it was almost scary. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. That's, and not to say that I don't believe your story. That's not what I'm saying, but it is something else from an onlooker, outside looking in, somebody who's trying to be pragmatic and logical about
No, but
things.
it's a fair thing to say. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't believe it. You need enough information.
Yeah.
And if I can't provide that, then it's fair. I
Yeah.
mean, you can say, hey, I mean, what you say might be true, it might be not. And that's it. But you can't make a distinction either way.
Yep.
Without more information. You can't see it. This is just total nonsense. Well, I mean, to give me a break, look at the facts, and if the facts start piling in, it starts leaning my way,
Yeah.
and it's just nice to see that it's been going that way.
Yeah, it's been pretty one-sided, actually. It's been leaning to your side, I think, since the beginning, in my opinion. Okay, so you get into this door. We're in this room. Is this the room where there's the scanner to get into the next section?
Yeah, there is.
Mhm.
Now, there's sometimes a guard in there, and sometimes there's not. I do not remember if this time there was a guard there. I just don't.
Sure.
But anyway, there's the hand scanner, and Luigi's duplicated that. I don't remember the name of it.
It was the Identimat. The Identimat, like
There you go.
2000 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess it's a different version of it,
Mhm.
but it's there's a bright light on top, and you put your hand in the scanner, and it measures the length of your bones that are supposed to be unique. That
Mhm.
was the first time I was putting my hand on there, and it recorded it or whatever. And then it stores your badge in it. So when you put your hand on there, your badge comes out.
Oh.
And it's a badge that has a magnetic stripe on it. And from that point on, you use it to open the doors.
Right, the doors that you're allowed in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you can either, clip it on your, your shirt or your lab
Sure.
coat or whatever, and keep taking it off. Or as, later on, I found out that Barry had a bunch of giant O-rings you can clip it onto, and then, you can stretch it and let it snap back. And
Right.
the reason you do that is because, like I mentioned about the security guards before, they're waiting for anything to go wrong. If it slips inside your shirt, if you stick it in your pocket by error and it's not visible, they will throw you against the wall and give you the third degree about,
Whoa.
procedures and,
Did that
security.
happen to
So
you?
Yeah, that did. And that's why I put the rubber O-ring on and clipped my badge on that. So it was always dangling around. I never needed to take it off because
Yeah.
it had, I had it clipped on and it slipped behind my lab coat. So it wasn't visible to the world.
And they were just waiting.
Yeah. It was, look, these guys had to go, if I had to go pee in the bathroom, they didn't
Yeah.
just go to the bathroom with you. They stood there and watched you pee. I mean, they had to watch everything you were doing. I mean, security was so tight.
Yeah.
It was so oppressive.
Yeah.
It actually just destroyed your will to work there.
Oh, understandably. Yeah. Yeah, that would be a big bummer. Okay, so like I'm piecing this together here on an emotional level and a psychological level. Like, first of all, you're being flown on a plane with one other person. You're being taken on this bus ride. This guy's staring you down. This military looking dude, blacked out bus driving off site. Going to this place. There's this weird shady door. You're scanning your hand like it's some type of sci-fi movie. You're getting a scanner out. Security everywhere. What's your emotional state like at this point? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do remember. I had the feeling that not everybody wanted me hired there. And, that's why I was kind of getting like the third degree. But yeah, I tried to do what they wanted.
Yeah.
You know, and maintain and still be myself. So, I mean, things worked out, but it was really uncomfortable and just not. You're not going to make much progress working like that. You can't have the military in control of anything other than the military.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you
Well,
know, it just doesn't work there.
yeah. And as we'll come to find out that, you know, the military is pretty much in control of all of that. And still is to, you know, I think to a certain extent. So you get your badge. Do you immediately meet Barry? Do they take you to meet your partner? How long into the process do you think? Was it the first week or
Oh yeah, it was it was the first couple days.
first couple days?
Yeah.
You
I
get
went
introduced
in-
to your lab partner.
Yeah, the first time I went into the nurse, which is if you walk in
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
the you know, right off the, if you want to call that the security room, whatever, there's a hallway off to the right that goes, you know, to the nurse. And they just do a general checkup and then they do an allergen test on your arm.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, as she explains to you, as the only female there, that you're going to be working with a lot of exotic materials that we know nothing about. And we want to know if you're going to have any allergic reaction to them. So they do a grid on my arm and just poked me with a bunch of different materials. And then I think I had to go back that day after that and wait like 2 days for that before I went back looking for it. And nothing swelled up or any of that
Thank
stuff.
goodness.
Yeah, right.
Because what's the cure for that?
Yeah, yeah, who knows? But I went back and then saw her again, and then I think there's this just general. I don't remember what the hell she said it was, but something for your immune system or something like that. I drank like a pine color. It reminded me of Pine Sol.
Mm.
It was that color, a deep brownish yellow color. And,
Yeah.
And
Opaque?
No, you could see it was translucent.
Okay.
You know, and then I was free to go, and that day, whatever day that was, that's when Dennis took me to meet Barry, who was going to be my lab partner. And you know, the way it is, I explained to you, the way it worked was we all worked on the buddy system, they called it. Everybody has a lab partner. You can exchange information, ideas with that one person, and that's it. There's no talking to anybody else in any groups and things like that. And when I went in to meet Barry, saw the lab that we're going to be working in, he was like super happy to see me. Like he had been alone for a while. So, you know, I mean, he showed me around. There's kind of a whole story there, but yeah, that was the day that I first met him. And then, you know, after I was shown a bunch of things, we went back and, you know, that was the end of that day. The days were kind of short. As soon as it started getting fairly dark, I would wind up going home.
Do you know why that is, or that was just the schedule?
I think it was just because the plane was leaving at that time.
Right.
And I wasn't set up to start staying there. I knew Barry stayed there.
He lived there.
Not lived there, but I mean, you
stayed for a few days. Or...
Yeah, I think it was either you stayed there for a week and had 2 weeks off, or you stayed there for 2 weeks and had 1 week off. It was something like that.
Type of rotation.
Yeah. So, yeah, I wasn't at that level yet. I was just being introduced to things.
That must have been kind of exhausting.
Yeah, it was, because it wasn't a normal work schedule.
Yeah.
The way it would work was they would call me at random times. I mean, it could even be on a Saturday. I'm out mowing the lawn or doing something, and I come in, and they'd say, somebody would call from McCarran Airport or EG&G Special Projects, and they'd say the name, you know, this is Julie from EG&G Special Projects. It is now 4:10. We expect you to be on the tarmac at 6:15. And, you know, okay, thank you, click. And so, all right, I guess I'll put some clothes on, and you get there and drive there and, you know, park my car, and at 6:15 and be standing on the tarmac and, you know, get on the plane, and that's it. So it's really weird like that and unpredictable.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know why that was. Maybe that was some kind of test in some way to see if I'd be flexible or what.
Seems like an environment where, you know, I spoke to a guy, a friend of mine, Hakeem Isler. He worked at PSYOP for a little bit in the military, and it was something that they had to go through, was like stress inoculation. They would constantly like be up in an hour, oh, never mind, and like this, they'd be you know, sort of dragged along emotionally just to sort of get them used to being under high stress environments. Like that was something that they would.
Oh, maybe that was it.
Yeah, they were trying to like prep you for certain things. And so, all right, now let's get back to Project Gravator, because we're coming into this place now. Luigi and his team did such an amazing job creating that bus ride, seeing the hangars from the bus, entering that door, getting your hand scanner, and then eventually going into the infirmary. How accurate is that infirmary?
It's 100%.
Really?
It's the whole thing's 100%. Like even I couldn't see the bus on the outside.
Yeah.
You know, you're seeing what I couldn't see, but that would have been what my eyes saw.
Yeah.
Because the hangars looked just like that. The infirmary was just like that. I mean, they spent 3 years working on this, trying to get it exactly perfect. And to my surprise, they did. So it's right on.
Was there anything that, because I know that like a few times, like especially when eventually we'll get into the craft and we'll get into, you mentioned before, the tripod light, but this is kind of information that sort of started arising now that the environment had the ability to jog your memory, because that's a real thing. Like if you showed me a picture of my classroom in grade 3, I guarantee you I'd start recalling things that I'd forgotten.
Yeah, that happened with Luigi too. He'd start building the rooms and say, look in here. And, you know, I said, oh, wait. No, the desk was there. Oh, yeah, wait, there was a whiteboard there. Yeah, I mean, it did bring back memories, but, you know, how could it not when you start seeing it and it becomes, you know, close to reality? There's a couple things you always forget until you see it.
Sure.
And, yeah, that really filled in some blanks, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that must have been pretty cool. I mean, in any environment, like if you were to go back in grade 3, I'd still like to see my classroom and be like, oh, wow, this is kind of gnarly that I get to be here, you know? So in any scenario, but in this specific one, I think a little bit cooler, arguably. So, okay, you go to the infirmary, you get these tests. Then you meet Barry. Barry's excited to see you. Is this where Barry breaks the news that the previous person who'd worked there had passed?
Yeah. Once I get introduced to Barry, and you know everything's kind of copacetic. So Dennis leaves.
Okay.
You know, and then Barry now is excited to show me around the lab, and he says, "I am going to show you stuff that's so awesome. You know, I'm excited. This is great." And well, wait, I left out a gigantic part here. Before I met Barry, we went to the briefing room where I read, all kinds of briefing. Yeah.
Okay, let's pause here for a second.
We left out a major part. Yeah.
Arguably one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. After the nurse stuff was done, the next, boy, it's hard to remember what came before the nurse or the briefings. I think the nurse came first, but anyway, I think it was second. The briefings. I go into a room with Dennis. There is literally a stack of blue folders there, and he said, "Look, here's a synopsis of the projects going on. We need to get you caught up, or at least familiarized with them until you know, then we can bring you in." And so I started reading through those. And that's where I learned there were several projects going on: Project Galileo, Project Sidekick, Project Looking Glass. Galileo was the project I was involved in that dealt with the power and propulsion system of the craft. And this is where they talked about reverse engineering extraterrestrial equipment. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. But then I also thought, are they just pulling my leg? And this is nonsense, and this is just some kind of test of some kind. So I just continued reading through it. Project Sidekick dealt with the weapon potential of the craft, And Project Looking Glass dealt with the fact that it produced its own gravitational field if the flow of time can be distorted. And they're not, and again, I'm not talking about going back in time. I'm
Just
talking
time
about
dilation.
can you change time by a few milliseconds? Are you
Mhm.
able to affect time at all? And so there was a lot to go through there, which I did.
Those 3 projects, the one thing that stands out to anyone who looks into that is that it's the 3 potentialities, or the 3 directions you can take gravity in: space with the craft,
Mhm.
propulsion; time with time dilation; and then weaponization is like how to manipulate gravity. How do we maximize the manipulation of gravity, right? Weapons, time, space. Control that. That's like the Holy Trinity. Like, you have that, you rule the world, right?
Yeah. Look, if you can produce gravity,
Yeah.
if you can control gravity, you have a machine that makes gravity, and you can control its intensity, you already rule the world.
Yeah.
You don't realize the potential that has, because as I've said before, all the stuff you've seen in science fiction movies now becomes a reality.
Yeah.
Now you've got force fields, now you've got time travel, now you've got warp drive. Everything hinges on that. And if they have a machine that is producing its own gravitational field,
Yeah.
they really want to know how to make more of those.
Yeah. That would be high priority. I often think of, like, it's a good reason to keep it secret.
Yeah.
Get that in the wrong hands, you got some type of time dilating weapon or whatever that is, right?
The other side gets that, you lose.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Out of those 3 projects, which one do you find most fascinating?
I naturally like propulsion, but I have this real destructive streak in me, and I kind of like sidekick. But on the other hand, all 3 are interesting, but how could you not be interested in interfering with the flow of time?
Looking
Because
Glass.
that's the most powerful thing of all. It's even the most powerful weapon of all, is time. But all 3 of them are incredibly interesting.
Have you ever heard of the chronovisor?
No.
There's I have a note here. There's a guy. It's an Italian guy. He was a monk, actually. I think I have it here. A Benedictine monk. Father Pellegrino Ernetti in 1950 said to have worked. He said he worked alongside Dr. Fermi, Werner von Braun, on a project of this machine that was able to peer back in time. So a machine that they could look through and take pictures of past events, and that the Vatican ended up confiscating it. It's this, deep conspiracy. Is this real? Is it not real? I don't know, but I just thought it was interesting that, in the 1950s, this actually came, he first talked about this in the 70s, I think 1970. And so that came to light with the chronovisor, which I thought was really interesting. And so when you first mentioned Project Looking Glass, I thought, whoa, that's kind of interesting.
Huh.
That
I never heard about that.
Yeah. But either way, I see how all 3 of those things can be incredibly paradigm shifting for any civilization.
Yeah, and they're all fascinating to work on.
Did that occur to you then, that like what you were dealing with was beyond anything else? Did that occur to you in that moment, like when you were reading those documents, that holy shit, this is a big deal?
If this was true.
Yep.
Yeah, it did. It did. And but I was only about 50% there.
Right.
I have no idea what these guys are going after here, and so I just read through the stuff, but I knew Project Galileo is what I was going to be assigned to. So
yeah.
I'm all for it.
There was a whole other section of the documents which we won't go deep on, because I know how you feel about that section as well. But I have to ask still, like on maybe just a surface level. There was some hypnotic regression stuff that you did in the past to try and bring some of this memory stuff back on what those documents read. But generally speaking, there were mentions that the owners of the craft were from Zeta Reticuli. That was like
Yeah.
that was what the document stated.
Yeah, there was a document that dealt with they called them biological entities that were on the crap.
EBEs, yeah.
Yeah. And I can't remember the way they worded it. But anyway, they had a couple drawings of them in there. And I think there was one photograph and the rest were drawings, and it just showed it was kind of the biology of their body, where their chest was cut open and there was one single organ inside their body.
Whoa.
Kind of like if you cut open our bodies and all our organs had grown together as one general purpose thing in there.
Whoa.
And it's just the way they were inside. It also mentioned some information was gleaned from the craft that made them think it came from Zeta Reticuli, a different star system only visible in the southern hemisphere, like 30 some odd light years away. How they got that information, I'll never know.
Yeah.
Again, it was just in there. Whether or not there were aliens that actually looked like that, I'll never know.
Sure.
It was just pictures in there.
Yeah.
So I always had to make a distinction between the stuff I actually touched and knew worked that way and what they claim. There's also one of the things Barry told me when we got working together. He said they put a bunch of crap in there. That way, if information is spread around and the garbage they give different people is different. So if people start spouting stories that you read, they know exactly who to trace it back to.
Yeah.
So I was expecting nonsense in there. So
passage material.
Yeah, I didn't give everything 100% credibility right off the top.
I think as someone who's, pretty left brain, somebody who's like logically focused and like, hey, this is how I think I would also react the same way initially.
Yeah, you have to. And like, and just because people say, hey, there's government documents that say that. Yeah, there's lots of government documents. They say nonsense. It's intended that way.
Yeah.
So don't, don't be deceived just because it's, the Pentagon printed it out or some other government agency that it's 100% true.
Yeah. Don't hang your hat on it, but also shelve it.
Right. It could be.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that to me, prior to the podcast, we were talking a little bit, and you'd mentioned, like the Betty and Barney Hill was the only other time that you heard that, and that was like back, in the 50s or 50s or 60s.
Yeah. Now I don't follow UFO lore or stories or UFO researchers, but I have heard a few stories. But what was interesting is, the Betty and Barney Hill story, back in the early 60s, a mixed race couple claiming to be abducted, by some flying saucer. And apparently Betty, was able to talk to the aliens. And before they let her go, she said, where did you come from? And they show her a map. And, she remembers the map and, during an interview, draws it out. And they went, yeah, well, that's Zeta Reticuli. And the fact that it said Zeta Reticuli in my paperwork, well, that's a connection there. And so I pay attention to that. So maybe that story is true.
Yeah.
So, again, I don't know for sure, but I do know for sure how the propulsion system works.
Yeah, that's something you can hang your hat on. What I find really fascinating is that like everything that you read about Project Galileo ended up being true.
Right. That's another notch you got to move forward. Everything I read about my Project Galileo, was in fact accurate. So just maybe everything else was too.
Yeah.
So,
but also, could just be passage material.
Maybe not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's you got to be careful there.
Yeah. I mean, we'll move past this in a sec. I just kind of want to talk a little bit about some of the memories that came back from that. There were also there was like this general impression that there was some genetic modifications that they were doing to the human race, that they were suppressing consciousness to a certain extent in these documents, as far as you can remember. Did that ever disturb you going forward, like after that, or did you really just like kind of categorize that as this could be BS?
Yeah, that really set off the BS alarm when
Okay.
they said, there's they claim there was, many corrections to the genetic evolution of, humans and just all kinds of other, wild claims that had, no proof to back them up
Yep.
whatsoever. And I really didn't put much credence in it at all, so I just brushed it off.
Okay. So now you read these documents, you're getting a little more prepped. They're surrounding you with all these guards, these people, they're giving you documents to read, that's strange files.
Yeah, but I still don't know what I'm really working on. I'm still expecting a very advanced jet fighter at this point, so I think they're just testing me with all this. What if we gave you information about flying saucers? Would you tell anybody about it? No, I wouldn't. I'm staying with the program. And yeah, I'm expecting to be brought in there and seeing, the F-32 or something like that. And, that's when they brought me into Barry.
Mm-hmm. So you meet Barry. He gives you a tour prior to seeing the craft. Obviously, you get all the propulsion stuff now. You get all the...
Yeah, he has the part of the propulsion system laid out on all that, and really can't wait to show me. And he says, you're going to love this. And there's the small reactor. There's the gravity amplifier and the emitter on another table. And the system is running. And, he said, try to put your hands on the sphere there, which I did. And when I got close to it, I couldn't. It pushed off just like the like poles of a magnet, if you ever played with two big magnets. But with my hands, I went, oh my God, what is this? It's a real force field. And he said, no, just try with all your might. And I did, and you can't move an inch. The first maybe 2 or 3 inches is somewhat elastic, but after that, you're not getting anywhere. And the thing, he shut it off, and the reactor is kind of a hemisphere on a plate, and he moved it, and he said, it's not connected to the bench, and turned it on again. And he said, push on it, and pushing on it. So, I mean, what he was showing me was the force was not being transferred to that, where even if you couldn't touch it, you would think it would slide away, but it wasn't. So the force is just going away. It's not being transferred to the device that's repelling it. And this stuff was amazing me. And then he showed me what this is actually doing is powering this emitter here. And then he showed me how that worked. And then he also mentioned, and you'll notice nothing's connected together. I went, where are we? This is like the Twilight Zone. So this was really, really blowing me away. And like, is this what powers, the aircraft? And he said, what did they explain to you? I said, nothing. They just, I just read these briefings, and Barry went over everything with me. And this is when I really realized, okay, we are reverse engineering something that some other entities made. And, this is where it became real for me.
When Barry went over everything that you had gone through, how long was that little brief or that Barry gave you? Was that like a 30-minute spiel, or was that like...
No, it was like a couple hours.
A couple hours?
Yeah, because every time, Barry would go, yeah, and there's this. I went, stop, and what do you mean there's this? And, we'd have to explain every last, a bit of what he's learned from that point. I said, okay, now let's go to here. How did you turn this off? And, so it took a long time of me constantly stopping him.
Yeah, in shock, I bet, just constantly.
Yeah, but it was great because I really felt like I was privy to information that only a few people had, and like, we could control the world with this stuff. But, we had no idea how it worked. So that was kind of our task.
Wow. That must have been so exciting for Barry, honestly, as well.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
You know, I'm
he
thinking
was
if
really
you're
excited about
working alone, possibly just lost his partner, don't know how long ago.
Yeah.
You know, and then someone new comes along who's like a puppy.
Yeah, it's like a guy showing off his new car. You know,
Yeah,
check
exactly.
this out. Yeah, right.
And he, you know, well, how cool that he gets to be the one
Yeah.
to tell you this stuff is real,
Mm-hmm.
you know, with certainty and show you. Like
Yeah.
that's got to be such a cool moment for the both of you to experience. But this is all lighthearted still? Is this all like excitement based and or
Initially, it was that day.
yeah.
And then, I mean, quickly things. It seemed like they were in a rush to do anything, to
Yeah.
find out anything. So we had to get down to work, eventually, quickly. And a lot of it was boring work. It was not exciting. It was making small changes and analyzing different parts of the, although there were different groups that dealt with like the materials, the metallurgy of the craft, and what everything was made of, and we had dealt with more of the interaction of the components and how they actually propelled the craft. And it was, I think it was another day or 2 days before I actually got to see the craft, because we had to know if the placement had anything to do with it. And really, they weren't even anxious to let us look at the craft. But, we kind of campaigned for that, going, look, it might be nothing works. There's no wires anywhere. It might be that placement is critical on this stuff. We have to see how it's laid out in the craft. And it was kind of like okay, you can go in and see it.
I see.
So that's when we were, actually allowed to see it. And that's when the world opened up to me. It's like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? So
now, walking into that space for the first time, was Barry was with you?
Yeah, right behind me. I walked in first.
Was he like poking you in the ribs and being like, "Wait till you see this"? No,
no. It was just
no horsing around.
Yeah, he was probably just looking at my reaction.
Yeah, just watching you light up.
Yeah.
So you see this craft. Were you prompted prior to entering the room with anything? Do you remember if they were like, "Hey, keep your head down"?
No,
nothing. Just walked in.
No, the first time, well, I had actually seen the craft. That's actually the second time I saw the craft.
Yeah.
The first time I saw the craft, I came in through a hangar door. And this is where the days kind of get mixed up. I think it was the third day I was there. I came in through, instead of going around the side of the building, the bus stopped at the first hangar door that was open. So that's when I went out that way.
I see, yeah.
And Dennis led me in, and that's the first time I saw the craft. And I slid my hand along the craft as we were walking in, and that's the first time I was reprimanded by a guard. Keep your hands down, your eyes forward, and go through the door. So that's the first time I saw the craft. When I first came in with Barry from that day, was the first time I was allowed in the craft.
And that was the first time you were aware that the craft was extraterrestrial. Because prior to that,
yeah,
you
prior
just thought...
to that, yeah, when I came in and walked in that way, they had, where the hatch part was, they had an American flag stuck on there, reversed for whatever reason, and so I thought that's a fighter,
Yeah, that's what people are seeing.
Yeah. I think I have these days screwed up because it gets confused in my mind. But anyway, so I came in there, and still in my mind that was an American built thing.
Yeah.
But it was, again, when I was in with Barry, and we saw the gravitational propulsion system, it working, how it repelled, and talking to him, that's when I realized, this is, a machine from another entity. And when we came in and walked in the hangar that day, I looked at this completely in a different light.
Yeah.
And we walked up the stairs they made for it. And clearly it wasn't made for a human to get in, because you had to crawl in, and you couldn't really even stand up until you were almost in the center. But, we looked around, and So he showed me where the reactor is and how you can look down into where the emitters are on the third level in the craft. And but that was all very amazing, to say the least.
Was there a feeling of an alteration of environment when you entered the craft as opposed to when you were outside it? Did you feel like there was a static charge, or like it was colder, or it had a smell to it? Was there anything?
No, it was just an ominous feeling.
Yeah,
because
just a
it's
feeling.
all, everything's the same color. Everything has the same radius of curvature to it. The only sharp edges in the whole thing are the reactor plate
Mm-hmm.
that it sits on, but everything else has a curve to it. Everything is the same material and the same color. So it feels, otherworldly.
Yeah.
When you're in there, because, human environments are full of different colors, different textures, different
Yeah.
angles, but it's not there. It's weird. And just
Almost
the way,
uncanny valley type. Like this isn't.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really, and it's just automatically uncomfortable. It's just, we're so used to something else. It's like, people say, well, it must have been so cool. No, it was not cool at all. I actually wanted to go back out. It was cool to look at it, but it's a really creepy feeling in there. It's really ominous.
Almost like you're not supposed to be there.
Yeah. That's the actual feeling. I think I said I just felt like I shouldn't be in here.
That's how I felt when I first put on the goggles.
Oh, really?
That's exactly what I said, is like, I feel like I shouldn't be here.
Yeah, that's weird that translates,
Yeah.
into that. To me, that tells me that Luigi got it
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yeah. You worked with Luigi for 3 years building S4, building, the bus, the cafeteria, all these like different, like the hallway, all this. But the craft is like, this is the magnum opus. This is like the thing that you had to rebuild and you had to make perfect. Now, if I look behind me here, there's like a little model that you had made, the maker's model of like the UFO, which was 1/48 scale, back in the day. But this was a totally different.
Oh, yeah.
You went deep on this with Luigi.
Yeah, this is.
How close is the craft to your memory of the craft when you see it through the eyes of S4, the Bob Lazar story, and Project Gravator?
Now I have to say, even being conservative, it's 100%. We went through it again and again. Now, I may not be recollecting it at 100%,
Sure.
but from what I remember, that is 100%. That's exactly the way it looked. There's some question. Was there another bump onto the black insulating ring?
Yeah, sure.
I don't remember, but this is what was in my mind. So that's, like I said, Luigi's images are like they were downloaded from my brain. They're exact.
Seeing this thing in Project Gravator as well, in the documentary, when the doors open and it starts hovering and it goes outside.
Now, I didn't see that.
Right. But you've seen the craft elevate.
Yeah, the one time we were allowed.
Yeah.
Barry and I were working in the lab, and then Dennis came in and he said, "Hey, there's a test flight going on. Why don't you guys come out?" And there was one of the doors in the lab led right to the big hangar, so we could open that, and we were there. So it was already out on the lake bed. So I don't know if they hovered it out there or showed it out or what the deal was. But there was clearly somebody, and this is one of the things that still confuses me to this day. It has a gravity field around it. And, that's going to bend everything from light to electromagnetic waves and all that. Yet there's a guy on a desk with a conventional HF radio or VHF radio talking to someone inside the craft. Now that should be impossible. It just it shouldn't work at all.
True.
But yeah, it did. So I had a lot of questions about how that was even working, and that caught my eye. And anyway, the craft was out there, and that some time went by, and then the craft began to lift silently off the ground. There was a little bluish purplish glow on the bottom, which was just kind of a corona discharge because the graft produced high voltage on its skin, which, by the way, if you shorted it out, it didn't do anything different. So it's just like anything you changed in the craft, it didn't care about.
Wow.
So once it lifted, it just stayed there for a while. And Dennis told me, go out and go under the craft.
Dennis told you that?
Yeah. And Barry stayed there, and I said, oh, okay. So I walked out there, kind of looking up the craft. And as I walked out, I looked back toward Dennis like, am I doing the right thing? And, he pointed up to look at the craft. So I did. And as I walked out under the craft, I couldn't see the craft. As I got closer to it, the craft just turned into sky. What I was seeing was the light bending around the craft, which was just incredibly awesome. So I took a step back and I could see the edge of the craft, and I went back under it. But also the other thing that hit me at the time was it's not transferring its weight to the ground. If you have something and you're producing a force and pushing on it, it's not on a pedestal where it's taking the weight of the craft and transferring it to the ground. The weight is just gone. So I'm under it. I'm not getting crushed by it. I can walk freely, and I can't see the craft.
No wind, nothing.
No, there's nothing at all. No sound. And I step back, and then I can see the edge of the craft come back into view and walk back. And I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's an imprint in my brain that'll live forever. It's yeah, so the mass is being canceled out there. It's not being transferred down. It's not standing on a pedestal of anti-gravity. It's just going away.
Yeah, that is so weird to think about, because it's so unnatural and unlike anything you would.
Yeah, but imagine if you could control that, right? You could do, I mean, what you could do. It's like I'm so jealous of their technology. So
yeah. Okay, so in the hangar we see this craft. Now in Gravitor, they've recreated the craft, they've recreated the flight characteristics of it, they've recreated in this in Blender and all these other softwares and whatnot. You're getting to relive this. Is there a point, and I just want to, I kind of want to make this point for the audience, because I want them to eventually experience this too, and I want them to support the project and go, check it out, because it will, I think, change a lot of people's perception one way or another. If you don't believe the story, if you believe whatever it is, it'll change your perception of it, because it'll put you in that space. Did you feel at any point like, man, people are going to understand now what I saw? Like when you were in this, when you're watching this with your own eyes, do you feel like, oh, this will help people understand what I saw?
when I saw Luigi's graphics, I did. Yeah, to some extent.
Does that make you feel? Does that?
Yeah, because a lot of people had just wrong ideas of it. I mean, even when Luigi released the first image of it in the hangar, you had, a bunch of people come out, oh my God, so I always thought it had some kind of landing gear. And, and people had all these other preconceived notions that was going on. Some guy said, clearly the whole thing's a lie, because from what you said, it's impossible to see the American flag.
That's right.
On that. And, Luigi did everything exactly to scale.
Yep.
And put, the camera exactly. And if you walk by, you can see
there was
the flag exactly where I said, so I thought, to some extent, it's certainly going to, prove, some of the things I said. But, you always have the people that are just really don't care.
Yeah.
They're going, it doesn't matter. This is all nonsense.
Sure. Yeah.
But I'm fine with that. That's okay.
Okay, so this is the second time you see the craft. The first time you're allowed entering it. Now, just to back up, the first time you see the craft was when you were walking by through the hangar and touching it. Was this also the time you saw the officer talking to quote unquote the kid or the what they called the kids, or this small whatever it was, whether it's a doll or whether it's a was that at that point or was that later?
I think it was at that point.
Yeah, when you were walking through and you kind of like glanced.
I walked in and then we went straight out. There's a door straight in the back of the hangar to the right side.
Yeah.
And then the door across from that. You know, these doors have like a, I don't know, 12-inch wire piece of glass in them.
Right.
And as I turned the corner, I looked in there and there were just some guys in lab coats looking down at one of the seats.
Mhm.
And I think they had a mannequin or something in there so they could just see, well, how big would the creature be if it sat in the chair? And they were measuring things and looking at it. Now, I had mentioned that before, and people said, oh, well, you saw an alien, and aliens are working with them. I said, no. I think these guys are trying to figure out how big something would be if it would set, if that was a chair. Sense. So, yeah, I don't believe there was any aliens around there.
Yeah, it didn't have like a large head and like a blue jumpsuit or anything, did it?
No.
Okay.
I think they were, you know.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. What's interesting too is that, you know, the chairs have some significance because you'd mentioned while you were in there, the one thing they didn't allow you to play with was the chairs.
Yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, and there's no fooling around with the chairs. Look, if they were just chairs. And I say the only reason I think Barry and I call them chairs is because they looked like chairs.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I have no information about those. They may not have anything to do with being chairs. And when you really look at it, look, there's 3 of them, you know, in a triad formation. One of them, right in front of it, is the waveguide. Why would you ever put a chair? I mean, so you're going to sit there and there's going to be a pipe in front of your face. So it's like the worst seat in the saucer. And then there's 2 other chairs, you know, on either side of that. They do all face to one archway. And when we were in there, Barry and I, looking at the reactor on the ground, there was another group of 2 guys in there that had light that was shining on, you know, the superstructure has archways all around it. And whatever they were doing caught my attention because one of those archways became transparent when they were playing around with it. So these seats were aimed towards that. So, you know, was that a window? Could all the archways do that? Were those really seats? Or is it just a coincidence that they energized that and, you know?
Right. Was that also the archway that had the writing?
Yeah. After it stayed clear for a bit, it turned blue, and then there was writing that looked, I don't know how to describe it, but if you look at Korean and if you make it italic, it looks something like that.
Can I pull up a picture of some writing and maybe you can tell me if that looks like it? Okay, hold on. Because I just want to pull up some writing of another case that, so there's that. No. Different from this.
Yeah, totally different from that.
Okay. And then I have another. I'm taking this time because I think a lot of people would appreciate like some either confirmation or whatever, so you can stop speculating about their own alien writing. This is from another sort of leak.
I bet I could find it. Nope.
No, not that either. Because this one does look a little more like Asian writing, a little bit more like kanji, or not quite it.
No.
Because there is the writing that you guys did on the Project Gravator.
Yeah, it's much closer to that.
Huh.
It's not. Now, I'm
Yeah,
not saying
sure.
it's
Yep.
Korean. It's
Yep.
not. But there's lots of circles and lines.
And the shapes were doing this kind of,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Also, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah, that's
so strange.
That's weird in itself. Yeah.
Yeah. Very alien. Very
Yeah,
very on par alien.
But remember, they were playing with that system, so
Mm-hmm.
maybe that wasn't the way it was supposed to be.
And at that point, you were drawn to it.
Yeah, and then immediately again, pay attention to what you're doing here. That's not, that's
Yeah.
not where you should be
Was
focusing on.
Barry like, hey, don't?
Yeah. Yeah, we were constantly concerned about getting in trouble.
Yeah.
It ruined everything.
Yeah.
Because, maybe that had something to do with the power and propulsion system. We need to talk to these guys. There needs to be free discussion for science to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
But compartmentalizing everything to keep everything completely secret,
Yeah.
you're tying yourself up.
Do you think the chairs, if they are chairs, which I think they are, by the way,
Could
because
very well be.
low ceiling, I mean, they're probably little guys sitting in there or little genderless aliens, whatever they are. Do you think that those chairs could have something to do with the sort of steering capability of the craft?
Maybe.
Like some type of like, if you were sat there, you had some type of like,
maybe they were all
connection.
They were all equidistant from the reactor at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact they were all pointing in one direction, my guess is from the way the craft operated and traveled, if you're going to sit there, it would only be for a short time. It's not like you're going to sit there for an hour to go anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just going to be minutes. So because of the rate of travel. So, the seats, obviously they're not padded or anything. It's just a smooth cutout that you sit in. So it's just like you're going to sit in, we're there and, get up again. But maybe the placement had something to do with controlling the craft.
Yeah, because there are. I mean, you look back at like other crashes or alleged crashes that happened, whether it's Roswell or Aztec or these type of things. And Aztec, actually, there was some symbols in that craft
Okay.
I might pull those up and show you those because those might actually, now that I think about it.
But it might also have something to do with, if there were, living beings and 3 of them. Maybe the reactor only puts out a field so big to protect them from inertia.
Oh, from getting
kind of a bubble. Yeah, so they're immune to all the effects of the way the crafts operate, and they just need to sit there to be protected.
Right.
So it could just be that, just a place, just to sit for all the action to take place, and then you can get up and we're there. Everybody disembark.
But that's interesting, though. So it's like they knew how to fly these things, obviously, to maybe a limited capacity, but they did know how to, like the craft that was in the air that you saw was the same craft that you were in.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't like they needed you to figure out how everything sort of worked together. They had that figured out.
Yeah, and look, we keep trying to put a pilot in there. Maybe there isn't. I mean,
Right, yeah.
Look, our cars and, just recently developed flying cars and stuff are autonomous.
That's
Maybe
right.
that is. It has nothing to do with it. They sit in there and just run the program. We're home or we're to Earth or wherever you're going. Nobody needs to pilot anything.
Maybe the fact that there were pilots in there doesn't necessarily rule out the autonomous theory as well.
Yeah.
They might be part of the craft.
Yeah, that's that's true. That's true.
Just a biological component. Okay. So, I mean, you got to stand in the craft. You got to, what's interesting too is that, you'd mentioned the tripod lights before and how, when you were creating the craft with Luigi for the documentary, you got in there, realized, oh, there's no light. And Luigi's like, there's no light in there. How do we see? And you're like, right, they had a tripod light. You went back, you found the exact model that they used.
Right.
You put that, shined it, turns out doesn't really light up the craft much. But one thing that struck me from seeing that, and maybe you also felt this, but you had these stairs, right, that they rolled in to like sort of crawl into the craft.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's this orange extension cable
Yeah, I mean, there were Black & Decker extension cords everywhere, which kind of connected this thing to Earth,
Yeah.
it made it more real.
Tethered
but,
it.
yeah, nothing's going to work without an extension cord connected to it. Yeah. But yeah, just to power the lights inside and other tools and things. Yeah.
That was one moment for me seeing this that really cemented this, how far we are from what we're dealing with here, is that we have this orange cable just dangling outside of this pristine, beautiful, perfect craft.
Yeah.
This Ferrari of the
Right.
universe, right?
Yeah, we should. We're not even worthy to dismantle it. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and we have this strange cable being plugged into a wall, and they're like, "Don't trip on that cable."
Yeah.
Okay, so you get to go in there, you get to play around with things. Now you see the panel go transparent. I'd mentioned to you before the podcast as well, is really, really interesting because in the Aztec case, again, I bring back the Aztec case. There was a witness at Wright-Patterson who had also seen the craft go transparent due to an injection of like high voltage. So again, this idea of like high voltage energy, a lot of weird things start happening, and he could see through the craft, but it was like blurry.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of all fits because, first of all, we know there's high voltage on the craft because it lifts off the ground. You can see it and we can measure it. So, there's a high voltage potential, on there. And the craft wasn't perfectly clear. It was kind of looking like through a shower door to some degree. Not totally
like
distorted.
refraction.
No, just, that milky white, maybe sandblasted look or something like that. Just not translucent, not transparent.
Right. Almost camouflage.
Yeah. But I mean, you could see people out there. You just couldn't really identify them, so,
Really interesting. Yeah. It's interesting because it's, you're, as someone who's looking into this stuff, I'm piecing together like all these different things. And now I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah. Well, you have knowledge of a lot more, other UFO info. I don't really follow any UFO stories or lore or researchers. So, yeah, you could probably plug more things together than I could for sure.
Okay. So craft out of the way. We're back in the lab. We're doing some tests. Now there's something that I did want to touch on. There was 2 instances with some of the tests that you did that really, really stood out to me, and I'm sure stood out to you to a greater degree. One involved time dilation, it would seem, with a candle.
Yeah.
And the other was what only I can describe as like a miniature black hole.
Okay, this is when Barry, we were working in the lab, and when he has the entire system connected together, so the gravity amplifier or gravity emitter is emitting.
Yeah.
So it's producing a gravitational wave, and he can rotate the emitter, and the effect changes the output. So one thing he showed me was he took a candle and lit it and put it in the focal point of the emitter, and he turned it, and normally the flame is, moving to some degree, and because of convection and, it went out from the heat, and the flame stopped, and he said that flame is frozen in time. And I said, it can't be because I can see it. If it was frozen in time, there wouldn't be photons emitting from it. He said, no, it's frozen in time. Look at it. And I went up, inspected it. I couldn't get my hands in there because he said not to for whatever reason. But clearly the candle was frozen. And he moved or rotated the emitter, and it became a candle again. And he said, watch what happens when we go way past that. And he turned it now I can see if the emitter's sitting there and you can see across the table, you can see the other wall and our desks and that sort of thing. So he rotates the emitter further than he did before, and a little black dot, a little ball forms there.
How big about?
about like that.
like a baseball.
Yeah, or maybe a tennis ball, something like that. Maybe even a little smaller. Um, and he said, "That's the light bending away from there." I so I got right up to it, as close as I could safely come to it, and it was a completely dark spot there. It was like a little black hole, but it wasn't affecting anything else in there. I mean, if it was a black hole, there'd be books flying and things getting sucked in. But it was just sitting there quietly, only bending light. And how can you do that even if you had a machine that made gravity? How can you selectively pick photons to distort or move or
Yeah.
attract to and nothing else? So, uh, I mean, everything was amazing about this.
You did you had a laser test too that you did with this, didn't you?
I did that at home.
Oh,
Yeah, that's that's a different story. Yeah, that I did at home.
I see.
But yeah, that's yeah, I I'm kind of so upset with myself to some degree that things didn't work out and I didn't allow him to do that, because I have such a desire to know more
Mm.
about what we had there. And I to this day I wonder what, it's been 35 years, what they came up with. Maybe they know everything about it. Maybe they haven't learned one thing. I mean, I'd like to know. I'd like to say, I'm sorry, can I get back into it, the project?
Yeah. No, I hear that. Do you think Barry's still working there?
35 years? No.
Probably not. Probably
Nah.
retired.
Yeah, he'd be an old guy.
Yeah. Maybe he's watching this.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Anything you want to say to Barry?
Give us a call. Yeah, right.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's I mean, those experiments are wild. Seeing a flame stop, it must be so jarring. Because like, I mean, I can show you some illusions after this
Yeah.
that are like kinetic and they will trip your senses. They will absolutely play with your perspective
Okay.
and create anomalous visual, perception of events that should be completely impossible. They'll change even how things move in time. They will, there's certain illusions I have, but those are illusions made, and I know how they work.
Yeah.
So when when you have something that you try to look at and you just can't figure it out, and your brain glitches out with like how it works, and a lot of people experience that with magic tricks when they're trying to explain it and they just can't, and then eventually they have to give up and they have to just unwillingly suspend their disbelief because they're
right. They just can't.
Yeah, they just can't figure it out. That must have felt like a bit of a magic trick to you, in the sense that not only did it fool you, but you probably also got disenchanted from it to a certain extent.
Well, yeah, certainly those that I can't interact with, you can just see those two tests.
Yeah.
But things like feeling the field on the reactor, where you can interact with it and you can shut it, turn it on and shut it off. And it's not disenchanting, that's frustrating, because I can touch it and I can see it's working. And I want to know how to make this work, and again, walking under the craft, I saw this thing in the hangar and I'm looking above it and I can't see it. And I take a step back and it's there. I must know how this works. Yeah, it's just, it is a very driving factor.
I can see that about you as well. As we walked in, I have this shelf filled with like knickknacks, puzzles, and just whizzing gadgets. It's kind of like a sort of toy factory over there, and I have all these little trinkets, and I could see you immediately as you picked one up, and I told you, oh, that's a puzzle.
Yeah, that will kill me.
You had to put it away.
I stayed here. Yeah, right.
So I think we suffer from the same affliction when it comes to wanting to know how things work, and just things will bug me. Like I have to figure it out, and that's the other thing about magic, is that like there is a method for everything, even if it looks impossible.
Right.
There's a method.
Right. As there is for this.
Yeah. What's after you got out of there, after you've worked with all that stuff, what would be your best educated guess as to how some of that works. Like, what's your best working theory? I'm sure you've thought about it long and hard. Like, what do you gather from all of that? And like, this is kind of what I have to go to bed with at night.
It's kind of hard to say. It's kind of hard to say because it's a lot of it's just a guess. I mean, the reactor itself appeared to be powered by a super heavy element 115. They've since synthesized that, but what we had was a stable version of it. And, there are isotopes of many elements. Some of them, they're all the same element, but some are stable and some are unstable. This one was a stable version of element 115. Clearly, you said there's something unique about that because that was in the reactor. And from what we can ascertain from X-raying the reactor, the base plate, it looked like a little accelerator, like a little cyclotron. So it looked like there's some nuclear manipulation going on there where they're bombarding the target, the element 115 sample in there, and it's producing some kind of effect, producing some kind of gravitational effect. And I'm not even sure it's gravity. As
Right.
time goes on, I'm increasingly convinced that there's another force of nature, that gravity is only the property of mass, where you get enough mass together, it has gravity. Little mass, just little gravity.
Gravity A.
Yeah. Well, gravity.
Gravity.
Actually, gravity B.
Yeah, or gravity V, right?
Yeah, it's just on a large scale. You get a whole planet. Yeah, it can pull rocks towards it and hold people on it, and that thing. It's not a very strong force, but we call this anti-gravity because there's nothing else to call it, because there's no other propulsion system, and it lifts up and it ignoring gravity, so we call it an anti-gravity. But I think there's another force that we haven't discovered, and that's what this machine is taking advantage of. And I think we're just left to discover how it works, or even discover the force itself. But I don't think it's actually gravity. I think it's just another force that repels. So I don't know where to go with that, but
Sure.
I just I increasingly believe that's the case.
Because it doesn't behave like gravity should. Like, gravity shouldn't be manipulatable to that extent.
No, and there's no evidence that gravity works that way.
Right.
So I think there's a good chance it's something else that works similar to it.
Or that's interacting with gravity.
Or interacts with it, yeah. But we just haven't stumbled on it yet. But, or maybe we have. Like I said, 35 years has gone by and there's been other people tinkering with that stuff. And I can only hope so. It's just I haven't seen anything flying around that works like that.
Yeah. Man, I would give anything to see something flying around that works like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but once you see it, you've seen it.
Yeah.
I mean, the drive you have, to know, and, boy, I'm really into UFOs. I like to see that, it's like really wanting to see a movie. I can't wait till the next Star Wars comes out. I'm so excited and all that, and after you see it, it's gone. I mean, once you see how the technology works and all that, and people are, how come you're not following this or going to UFO conventions and stuff? Yeah, the amazement's gone. I see what's going on. I got to touch it. I got to work with it, and the only thing that's driving you is not knowing. But once you know, it takes the wind out of your sails.
It's kind of like a magic trick.
Yeah. There you go.
But what?
That's exactly like a magic trick, really.
Yeah. Well, what I enjoy about magic now is being able to see it in others.
That's why Barry was so excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. He was able to show you the magic, and then ruin the magic for you.
Right.
All right, I got a little list of things I just want to get through real quickly about Gravitor, about all this stuff. This here, we pretty much ran through all of that. there are rumors, just to clear the air type deal. There are rumors that underground facilities at S4 existed. Were you ever aware of that? Was that ever brought up? Did you ever hear of that or see anything?
I didn't hear or see.
Nothing.
No talk about it.
Yeah.
I can't say that they weren't there.
No, yeah.
I did not see them. I never saw any down staircases. I never heard a person talk about it. So
Cool.
I just don't know.
Great. There was one time you got to see down the hangars. This is another, again, you know, if you guys are looking to experience what, you know, some of what Bob experienced, check out Project Gravator, because there is a point where you walked into the hangar, the one time all the hangar doors were open.
Yeah.
And you quickly got to see down this massive like silo,
Yeah,
this huge
The
hangar.
outside doors were closed,
Yep.
but they were large inside bay doors for each one. And one time I went in there, all those bay doors were open, and I walked in from the lab door, which is directly across them all, and you could see inside every hangar, you know, a part of a craft. You know, I think you could see at least 3. After that, it was too far away to see. But yeah, you can see there were other crafts, and you know, there was obviously a lot more going on than I was being exposed to.
Yeah, there were probably
Awesome.
other propulsion teams working.
Yeah.
Simultaneously.
No doubt.
You saw like this Jello mold one.
Yeah,
which
there
is
was a
like-
Jello mold. There was one that looked like a carnival hat, which was just square, and that was standing up and had a hole through it, like it had been shot with a projectile from underneath, and the metal was bent up.
And that one is said to be found in the water too, right?
Yeah. The Navy is behind all this stuff. Yeah, it's I'm just fascinated what might be going on in the water. I don't know if it was the ocean, a lake, or whatever, but you know, what has the water got to do with all this stuff in the Navy? So it's I'm fascinated by that.
Yeah, you would think like if a craft like this could have transmedium capability, right? This is what a lot of, you know, what's coming out right now is that these things are able to travel not only through air frictionless, but through water as well.
Yeah. It should present no problem at all.
Then, you know, would that stop at water?
I don't know. I mean, would they be able to go through solid matter?
Right.
Maybe there's a limit, you know, a density limit.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, liquid falls within that limit that you can penetrate through. Maybe if it increases, you know, density increases past there, you cannot go through.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's free to they could go through mountains, or, you know, who knows? But that would even be crazier. Yeah. I don't know if I could think about that.
Yeah, I don't even know what to make of that. But in the water, it seems like a good place to hide. If you were,
Since it's the planet's almost all water, you can hide an entire civilization down there, and we'd never know.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to go to the backside of the moon or to Mars or.
No, especially if they could go deep. They can just hang out down there, and they have no chance of running into us.
Yeah, there's been some, you know, a lot of talk of that actually being the case. We had Lou Elizondo here on the podcast at one point. I'm sure you're familiar with Lou, but he, you know, he had said as well that they had footage. Apparently, this is OSAP or ATIP or I don't know, one of these programs that had footage, crystal clear 4K footage of a giant round mass traveling at 500 knots. And this is a massive thing, like bigger than, he's like the size of a city block. And it was traveling at 500 knots. There's like 500 miles an hour. Underwater.
Okay.
And this was spotted out by like an oil rig and like multiple witnesses and like top down footage of it. So I'm guessing satellite footage. He didn't want to divulge that, but put it together. He said it was round, so I assume it's from the top. So it's probably satellite footage. But yeah, this thing traveling. And then also Tim Gallaudet, who's a Navy Rear Admiral, also said that they had encountered large crafts moving at 400 to 500 knots underwater.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
That's unreal.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Especially something that size, we're not talking about a pencil moving at 500 knots, but
no.
a city block moving at that. Yeah.
I mean,
You're not doing that without really advanced technology.
yeah. Yeah. It seems like that would be the place to look while everyone's looking up in the sky and into space, maybe a lot more of the activity. And that would probably explain why the Navy was so heavily invested.
I think I'm just under the impression they happened onto it at one time, and they were just, they had dibs on it. They ran into it in some way, and it became theirs.
Yeah, because like a lot of the, when you came out initially with this is the first time people heard about an intact sort of crash retrieval or a retrieval of like a spaceship. Every I say spaceship, but again, maybe it lived in the ocean, but these things, tended through stories at least to be debris or wrecks or everything else. So, I mean, if the Navy finds these intact in the water, it would put them at the front of, this whole thing. It's really interesting. Okay. Last, I want to just ask you about a few people. Travis Walton, you're familiar with his story?
Yeah.
So what I find fascinating about Travis, other than his testimony, because I do believe I believe he's telling the truth as he knows it. I think
Luigi, I think knows him well, or met him, and
yeah,
he sounds like an interesting guy to talk to. I hope to in the future at some point I get to talk to him.
Yeah, well, I'd be honored to facilitate that event if ever you choose to. I'll move mountains. I think that would be really interesting because one of the reasons is the craft that he describes. I mean, it sounds a lot like the craft that you worked on.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Even so much as sort of the arches. Now with his craft, he saw it. The only time he saw like the exterior was he was always under it. But it had those sort of like arches under it, right? When it glowed. So it was like glowing. And yeah, so there was, I've always thought that like you guys should meet and talk about this craft because there might be,
I'd like to.
There might be some similarities. The second similarity of crafts, and this is where it becomes a little bit more contentious with, I'm sure, a lot of people out there, Billy Meyer.
Oh, yeah. I've seen Billy Meyer images. Luigi has a poster of one. I mean, one of them, come on, it looks exactly like the sport model.
Yeah.
It looks exactly like it. So you can't tell me that's a fake picture. It's impossible.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's where it becomes, like, incredibly...
Okay, so Luigi has a poster of one. I mean, one of them, come on, it looks exactly like the sport model.
Yeah.
It looks exactly like it. So you can't tell me that's a fake picture. It's impossible.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's where it becomes, like, incredibly confusing with Billy Meyer because... You look at some of his other photos, and I'm sure that you feel this way too.
Yeah, some of them are nonsense.
You're like, what is this?
Yeah.
This is like almost like a...
this is something I think a friend of mine, Gene Huff, called UFO researcher syndrome. You get some of these guys that are really into it, and they start bringing some facts forward and, begin to get attention. They, give lectures and things like that. And then... maybe they had some initial sighting or information. They work for the Navy or Air Force or something. And, it kind of dies away and they begin missing the attention. And then their story begins to expand a little bit. And, oh, wait, I forgot to tell you, and, their attention comes back and, that keeps increasing. And then also the Martian said, and, and then you have some, ridiculous thing. And I think... my own personal opinion, I think Billy Meyer did have some sighting, got some pictures that were authentic. And look, at the time in the 70s, there was nothing. There was a Polaroid, and it's not like you can fake anything.
Yeah.
You know, he got a lot of attention, a lot of press and all that. And he was just a one-on farmer in Switzerland, if I recall. And, you know, just a lonely guy out there.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he's in all the news and all that. And then that began to fade away. And I think the same thing happened, or at least possibly that. Wait, here's another flying saucer I forgot to tell you about. That looks like a cake, Billy. Right?
Yeah.
You know, and it has golf balls stuck to it and sitting in his driveway with a string attached to it. So, yeah, I mean, some of them look ridiculous, but I can't explain the similarity to, you know, the sport model. That's why I think I'm convinced that's an actual photograph.
If I pull out, I have a book here. If I pull it out, could you point the one you're referring to?
Yeah, sure.
Not this one.
Yeah, no. Yeah, you're there. Yeah.
All these?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Even so much as the
Yeah. I mean, look.
the underside.
Yeah.
He's got quite a few.
Yeah. I'm sorry. That's it. Now, I mean, and I even mentioned that. I don't know if I got the amount of humps right.
The rings.
Yeah. Sometimes it looks different. Maybe it's a different, but I mean, that's it.
The sort of portholes or whatever those are.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm 100% behind those.
Yeah.
100%. There's no way Billy could have gotten that without seeing it.
Yeah.
So he might have seen this, and then as time went on, other things happened and other crafts came into being.
Yep.
Yeah. Right. But
do you think there's a possibility that and this is like purely speculative, that afterwards Billy might have been like messed with or something?
That's also a possibility too.
You know, because seeing something like that, putting those photos, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Especially back then.
Yeah, especially that craft. You know, the amount of security that was behind that craft. They did not fly that around willy-nilly.
No, they're not cruising over Switzerland.
Switzerland,
No, not at all. Yeah, that's possible. He's a single guy, you know, in the mountains of Switzerland somewhere.
Yeah.
You're not going to let a guy ruin your security.
Yeah, that's always stuck out with me too, is that like it's such a bizarre thing, because you mentioned Billy Meyer in today's, you know, day and age, people automatically.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, from what I've seen, some of the stuff looks.
Some of the stuff's ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And then there's the whole Semyaze, which again, I don't know, is it true or not? Like,
you know,
look at this.
Come on, it's
a hubcap with
it's nonsense.
Yeah.
It's 100%.
I could build a better UFO.
Yeah.
But then the original ones are so. And as a photographer, I love photography. I love it. Like, I mean, the composition and everything, like they were beautiful photos.
Yeah.
Like really, really beautiful photos.
Yeah, but something changed.
Yeah.
So, but I don't claim to know what's going on. I just know that craft looks a lot like the crafts that I worked on.
Yeah.
I mean, 95%.
Yeah.
And how do you explain that?
Yeah. Wow. Incredible. All right, Bob, I got a few questions from some interns. So we have this membership, and interns can ask questions to the guests. They don't know that they're getting to ask you questions as we're pre-recording this. This is, you know, only coming out later when the documentary is released. So they had no idea that I was, you know, going to have a podcast with you. But I asked them in our little channel. I was like, hey guys, just, you know, fun little question. Like, if you could ask Bob one thing, what would it be? And like people just started chiming in. So I grabbed a few of those questions and I'm going to pull them up here. I have to just go turn this camera on. Give me one sec.
Okay.
Aren't those crazy?
Yeah.
Like here, some of them are really interesting because if you look at like, that one looks a little sus, but if you look at these ones, there's one right here. There's double exposure because the craft moved.
Oh, that's interesting.
So-
I've never seen this book.
This is a
I-
fascinating book. This was a gift from Luigi, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, Luigi gave me I think he gave me a picture book. It's much thinner and has, a few, not this many pictures in it, but a few of, the sport model.
Yep. They referred to it as a sport model?
I referred to it as
You
a
referred
sport
to it,
model,
that- yeah.
and everybody picked that up.
Really?
Yeah. After that, it was the sport model.
It was a sport
Yeah.
model. Does look like a sport model.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
That's something.
down to the antenna. That's like right there. You see it right there.
Yeah. Even that picture looks weird to me. Well, there's.
Yeah, I don't know if that's multiple or if it's long exposure, if it's bouncing around. I don't know. Some of them,
Oh, well.
but again, some of them look real.
Yeah,
then-
and some of them look absolutely fabricated.
Yeah, they look completely fabricated. So, and you know what? He's still around. It'd be nice to hear from him and to get something, get him. I just don't know if.
I think Luigi talked to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to see something come from that, to be honest. He's somebody I think still needs to be heard in terms of that, because I think there is something there. Obviously with the craft. All right, I'm going to pull this up. I got to pull my phone out for this. Here's the first question. This is from a gentleman named Bobski. Probably my favorite question.
How was the food in S4? It was just what do you call those machines? Just
like vending machines?
Yeah, it was just vending machine.
Like
food.
sandwiches and stuff.
Yeah.
It was like EG&G vending machines, or
No, it was they were actually old. Just generic food vending machines. They had M&Ms and stuff in there, and
Yep.
one they had another one that gave you either coffee or this imitation chicken soup or hot chocolate, and they had ones that had some sandwiches in there. I never had a sandwich from there, but I just
what was your go-to?
my go-to was the crackers with the peanut butter in them.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Just crackers and peanut butter.
Yeah.
Low carb diet. We'll do. All right, we got another one here. Yeah, this seems like a good question. This is from Hara. Hara asks, if you could have taken one small item from the hangar with you, what would it be?
That's a tough one. From the hangar.
Or from the lab. Right, honest.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean,
He picked that up.
really?
Yeah. After that, it was the smart model.
It was the smart
Yeah.
model. One. All right, if you
Guy.
it's ridiculous. And
But-
then there's the whole Simyaze, which again, I don't know, is it true?
I
Is it
mean,
not? Like, look at this.
Come on, that's
There's a hubcap with
it's
a.
nonsense.
Yeah,
It's 100%.
I could build a better
nonsense.
UFO.
Yeah.
But then the original ones are so. And as a photographer, I love photography. I love it. Like, I mean, the composition and everything. Like, they were beautiful photos.
Yeah.
Like really, really beautiful
Yeah, but
photos.
something changed.
Yeah.
So, but I don't.
This shit,
Yeah.
you know,
I don't know if I got the amount of humps right.
the rings.
Yeah. Sometimes it looks different. Maybe it's a different, but I mean,
Even
that's
the,
it.
the sort of portholes or whatever those are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really. But I don't.
position and everything. Like they were beautiful photos.
Yeah.
Like really, really beautiful
Yeah, but
photos.
something changed.
Yeah.
So, but I don't claim to know what's going on. I just know that craft looks a lot like the crafts that I worked on.
Yeah.
I mean, 95%.
Yeah.
And how do you explain that?
Yeah. Wow. Incredible. All right, Bob, I got a few questions from some interns. So we have this membership, and interns can ask questions to the guests. They don't know that they're getting to ask you questions as we're pre-recording this. This is, only coming out later when the documentary is released. So they had no idea that I was,
Okay.
going to have a podcast with you. But I asked them in our little channel. I was like, hey guys, just, fun little question. Like, if you could ask Bob one thing, what would it be? And like people just started chiming in. So I grabbed a few of those questions. Here.
Boy, picture looks weird to me.
Nah,
Sport model.
it was a sport
Yeah.
model. Does look like a sport model.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
That's something.
down to the antenna. That's like right there. You see it right there.
Yeah. Even that picture looks weird to me. Well, there's.
Yeah, I don't know if that's multiple or if it's long exposure, if it's bouncing around. I don't know. Some of them,
Oh, well,
but again, some of them look real.
Yeah,
and,
and some of them look absolutely fabricated.
Yeah, they look completely fabricated. So, and you know what? He's still around. It'd be nice to hear from him and to get something, get him. I just don't know if.
I think Luigi talked to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to see something come from that, to be honest. He's somebody I think still needs to be heard in terms of that, because I think there is something there. Obviously with the craft. All right, I'm gonna pull this up. I gotta pull my phone out for this. Here's the first question. This is from a gentleman named Bobski. Probably my favorite question.
How was the food at S4? It was just what do you call those machines? Just
like vending machines?
Yeah, it was just vending machine.
Like sandwiches and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
It was like EG&G vending machines, or
no, it was they were actually old. Just generic food vending machines. They had M&Ms and stuff in there, and one they had another one that gave you either coffee or this imitation chicken soup or hot chocolate, and they had ones that had some sandwiches in there. I never had a sandwich from there, but I just
what was your go-to?
My go-to was the crackers with the peanut butter in them.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Just crackers and peanut butter.
Yeah.
Low carb diet. We'll do all right, we got another one here. Yeah. This seems like a good question. This is from Hara. Hara asks, if you could have taken one small item from the hangar with you, what would it be?
That's a tough one. From the hangar.
Or from the lab.
That's kind of a trick question there.
Why is it a trick question?
Boy, I just don't want to get into that.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Yep.
Yeah.
Feel free. Yeah, that's fine. There was a story of a burger camera.
Okay. Yeah. There was that.
Yeah.
But that wasn't in the hangar.
Oh, that wasn't in the hangar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell that story?
Yeah. Sure. I went at the time. It was later on in there. I went to Burger King in the morning, and at that time, there were no iPhones or digital cameras or anything. Everything was on film. And they had 110 film cartridges, which were small, about that big, and had a little round area on each side where the film would go. And Burger King had, I think if you bought a Whopper, they had a camera, which is just a very small piece that would just snap on to the 110 cartridge and turn it into a camera. So you could take pictures like that, but it only made it like maybe 2.5 inches long by 3/4 of an inch. So like a rectangle like that. And that I knew I can get into F4. So to fast forward a bit, my desk had hollow steel legs on it.
Yeah, kind of like these,
Yeah,
almost.
yeah.
but with like holes in them.
No. The bottoms are open because one of them had, the little plastic caps was missing. So I know it was hollow. So I actually managed to take a single picture of the craft by opening the door. And I put the camera in the leg, not knowing, because I wanted to see if I could come and go. But I never got to take it out again. So the camera and the picture are still at F4 in that leg. But
Wow. All right. Well, if
Yeah.
anybody's working at S4 right now that's watching this,
yeah.
do us a favor, grab that camera, upload that picture.
Yeah. Yeah,
We
there
want to
you
see
go.
it.
Yeah.
That would be so wild that the best picture of a UFO would be taken from a little like a fast food camera
Yeah,
or whatever.
I mean, actually, to answer the question, I may have already done that.
Mm.
Okay.
Yep. Good enough. All right. This one's interesting.
So a gentleman, picture a secret tunnel is his handle, and he asks, it's a great question. Do you ever wish
You could
No.
forget what you saw.
Oh, no, not at all. No. No, I want to see it again. I want to know more about everything there. That I sleep thinking about that technology.
If you could ask somebody who worked at S4 right now, right? If you could talk to them right now, what's something you'd ask?
What did you find out?
Hmm.
Where did we go from there? I mean, tell me anything.
Yeah.
Tell me, how was the power generated? How did the components communicate to each other? What range did they work at? Just tell me anything. Fill in any blank at all. It's like having a crossword puzzle with nothing in it. Just please put a letter anywhere and I'd be happy. So that's where I'd be. Anything, any word that came out of his mouth would be I'd be super happy.
And if you could give advice to somebody on their first day at S4, what would that be?
Just follow the rules. Don't be a jerk. Just go along with the project, or else you'll regret it.
Balbazar, I appreciate your time. This has been, for me, just one of the greatest experiences of my career, getting to speak with you on camera. So
Well, thank you.
yeah, I'm very, very grateful that you were able to do this and that we were able to connect in this way. It means a lot to me. So thank you. I wish you luck with Project Gravitor and S4, the Balbazar story.
Thank you.
And I hope that one day you get the answers that you seek.
Me too.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Perfected or kind of put a bow on it with a little touch of AI. but the whole thing is handmade. So the craft, the environment, the Papoose Lake, the facility, the equipment, and the people were all made. And some of the people are actually real actors that we put in there. So it's not, there's one of the guys that is Barry in the film is a guy called Luis Martinez that's been working with me for the past 10 years. And he laughs at it because he goes, I can't believe I'm Barry, you know, so.
Does he look anything like Barry?
Actually, he does. He does.
That's why we chose him.
Yeah.
Where's the actual Barry now?
I don't know. You know, I kind of thought at one point after all this happened, we would at least hear from one of those guys. But I never heard from anybody after the initial release of all the information. Yeah.
It seems like, well, I don't know. If people are able to keep secrets for this long, it's got to be very difficult to just blurt it out. Like, you know, you're holding on to a secret for 20, 30, 40 years. It's like,
I guess these guys were lifers, though.
yeah.
I mean, they spent most of their time there. They spent at least 2 weeks at a time and had 1 week off. So they stayed at the base. I mean, these guys were hardcore. I had just come in on the project, you know, so I don't know. I don't know what happened to him. I'd love to know. I suspect that Dennis Mariani, my supervisor, died. I've seen people track him down, you know, all the way to point to speaking to his family, and they said, yeah, he had some classified job out in the desert or something, and they showed me his gravestone and stuff. So, you know, at least they were able to track him down. But I've never heard of any leads on Barry or Renee or anybody like that.
What is it like seeing the recreation of it in a film? Because, I mean, essentially it was your direction, for lack of a better word, your description of it, you telling them exactly how everything was laid out, and then once they recreated it, what is that feeling like when you watch it?
Well, the final product is absolutely mind-blowing because, as I've said to Luigi, it looks like you guys downloaded that out of my brain. I mean, you know, you can describe something 100 times, and until you actually make a picture, it doesn't become clear. But, you know, this took years. I think it was like 5.5 years from when I first met Luigi, and he said, yeah, I can do this. And the quality kept improving to where he started showing me pictures, and I went, Jesus, that's really it. It's not really it. It's really it. And, I mean, it blew me away. Later on, he showed me a 3D environment where I could put goggles on and move around inside. I mean, that made the hair stand up on my arms. It was unbelievable. So I don't know if I could really describe how that made me feel, but it felt like I was teleported back there. And that's when really I developed an admiration for Luigi's talent. I said, I'm behind this, and flew out to Canada a couple times. I didn't have much to do with the film other than, I guess, a couple times going out there and going, no, that's right, that's the wrong color, move this here, do that. And but those guys spent over 3 years working on it. And they never showed me anything. You know, I'd speak to Luigi, a couple times a month, and he'd always say, you oh my God, you won't believe this. I said, show me. No, it's not done yet. So I really didn't get it to see anything till close to the end. But when I did, really, without trying to sound dramatic, it really put tears in my eyes, going that's it. That's it. You did it. Just stop. It's perfect.
Well, I had the pleasure of watching the movie with you and sitting there with you. There was a bunch of times in the movie you were like,
yeah.
Like you could tell.
Yeah.
That it was just
I swear I could feel that place. I could feel it watching that movie. It really freaks me out because, as I've said before, it's not like what I saw. It's exactly what I saw. It's perfect. It's just like Luigi was at S4 with a camera. So
it's very unique.
It worked.
It's a very unique documentary in that regard. And watching it with you, seeing you experience this thing, and then me trying to imagine what it's like for you You're this young scientist who gets brought in on this thing without much explanation, and then all of a sudden you're confronted by this craft. And you know, the way it's broken down in the film, and you get to actually see you viewing this thing and being in the presence of this thing for the first time. It's just, I could just only imagine what that must have been like for you. And it's so weird to watch you watch it again and see your wheels spin. Just what the fuck happened to my life, man?
Right.
What did they do to me? What did they make me experience? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, I really can't fill in the blanks there. It's
I want to just say that there was a time when Bob got angry at me a lot because I wouldn't show him. And he was like, come on, show me. And I said, it's not ready yet. I don't want to show you something. But at a certain point, we had to. And Bob started remembering more stuff.
Yeah,
when you
that's
saw
true.
It.
It really made a big difference when he showed me some things, and walking down the corridor here and turn, oh, stop, wait, there's another door there. I mean, it was like I was going back into the facility, and really brought, actually seeing it again really brought some things back that I had completely forgotten about. So that,
Well, what's really fascinating is, for people that don't know your story, you came up with a story, you talked to George Knapp, and was it 89?
88,
88?
88, 89, somewhere in there, yeah.
So, late 80s, you've essentially told the exact same story all these years. And then, within the last, 9, 10 years, we've started to get all these reports. There was the New York Times story, there was the Go Fast video and the FLIR video, and all these videos that show a craft that's moving the way you described this sport model moving.
Right.
Which kind of freaked a lot of people out with the way it rotated and turned.
It does the belly roll, faces at the bottom towards where it's want to go, and then it takes off, and yeah.
It's exactly how you described all those years ago, which is really fucking crazy.
Well, that's the way it was.
But it's just, it's crazy because you had this story way, way, way back then, and everybody's like, this guy's just making things up. This is all cockamamie bullshit. And then you see those videos from these fighter jets, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. It's moving the exact same way he described. It's doing what he described in 1989.
Yeah. Yeah.
Time to take a drink. Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers.
Because it's so weird. I can't. I've had so many conversations with people, and one of the things that comes up is, do you think Bob Lazar is telling the truth? And I say, look, I don't know. There's no way I can know, but he doesn't seem like he's lying. I've been around a lot of liars.
Look, nobody can know unless you're there. I'm the biggest skeptic of all. Although if you look at Wikipedia, it says I'm a conspiracy
theorist or
yeah,
something.
A conspiracy
I think
theorist.
it says I'm a far-right podcaster.
Yeah, all right.
So.
Yeah, it's crazy. But, shit, I lost my train of thought now.
Well, if basically, are you a conspiracy theorist? No, you don't even look at this stuff.
Well, if you have a lie, you have one lie, and it's amazing because you've told the same one for all these years.
It's a pretty detailed lie.
It's also not normal. Like, normally when people lie, they get bored with the same lie, and then they come up with another lie, and then there's some other story. You catch them. Eventually you catch them. There's some cockamamie new thing that they come up with, and it's the type of people that are that deceptive. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit the standard model of someone.
Well, there are other people involved with it.
Yes.
I mean,
that's also part of the
This
problem.
is for the first time Gene Huff finally is on film, because when I had the test flight information, he was he was the first person I told about that. And, we were all able to go out and see it. And so everybody knew that I wasn't crazy. It was...
And then also all the confirmation that you were being fucked with. That, when you were in the gym, they would show up and open up your locked car doors and open up your trunk and leave it there so you'd go out there and see it. They'd go to your house when you weren't there.
Yeah,
break
they
into
were
your
even
house.
right. They were even following George Knapp and I mean all of us, anybody that had anything to do with it at that time.
Yeah.
They were keeping eyes on. It was
Not just eyes, but a lot of intimidation tactics, just letting you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
letting you know that they could touch you.
yeah. So I've really worked for decades to push this out of my mind. So it's always tough to bring it back, and talk about it. And it's although it might be funny now, it wasn't funny then at all. It was a really stressful time, and still is a very stressful thing for me.
I know it's so many years ago, but do you remember the thought that came in your mind when you realized that it wasn't ours?
Do I remember the thought?
Do you remember the experience?
Yeah, I remember the feeling.
Of recognize, because initially you saw the American flag sticker.
Yeah, when I saw the American flag, when I first went in, the first time I went in through the hangar door instead of around the back, slid my hand across it, saw the American flag, and I thought, oh my God, this explains the UFO nuts,
It's ours.
Yeah, this is ours. This is a new top secret fighter. We came up with a new propulsion system, and it explains everything because I never believed in flying saucers. I thought people were nuts. But when they started reviewing everything with me, I was trying to replace somebody, or they were trying to use me to replace somebody as quick as possible. And they had two directives. Directive one was to duplicate the technology with available material at any cost, which is exact verbatim what it was. And directive two was to be able to disable this technology at a distance at any cost. And, once you start thinking about that, wait, don't you guys know how the thing you built worked? And it's kind of like they left that out, that this, by the way, this isn't ours. And Barry is the guy that filled me in going, no, this is an alien craft. And we need to figure out how this works. Look at the technology here. I mean, this is decades, light years ahead of where we are. And it was a shock, really, to me. I remember going home that night and just laying in bed and reviewing everything that everybody said that day. And I really don't remember how I felt the following days, but it was just a different feeling.
Like the world just changed.
Yeah. It was, I don't know. I really can't put it into words.
Well, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine what that experience is like. And it's also very strange that they would bring you in and not specifically state to you that this is not ours. They just bring you in and just give you a directive. This is what you were trying to accomplish.
Well, they gave me a bunch of briefings. Everything was moving at a very fast pace, and I don't know why. I think I mentioned in the movie, right prior to I got there were Russians involved in it. From what I can ascertain, there was an exchange of information, and then we discovered something of great importance. And of course, kicked the Russians out and just held on to that information ourselves. And there was kind of a knowledge vacuum there. There was also an accident, and I was told I was replacing someone that was injured. I believe he actually died.
There's no record of who this person was, or has anybody ever tried to figure it out?
I don't know. I don't have any names. I just know that Barry told me, I'm replacing somebody that he used to work with. And he was without a lab partner for a while. So when I came in there...
How long's a while?
I don't know. But, that brings up a good point. First of all, we're dealing with alien or another civilization technology, whether it it's from another dimension, another time, another planet. Who really knows? So I'll eventually get to answer the question here, but wouldn't you think this place would be more like the lunar receiving lab where everything is white, so you can see a speck of dust. everything is sterile. People are being extremely careful with what they're doing, but you're not seeing that. This is in now something akin to an aircraft hangar in the middle of the desert. There is dust on everything. People are taking everything nonchalantly. There's a friggin' poster about the thing, a "they're here" poster there.
And thank you, Luigi, for getting me
Yeah.
that poster. We got to figure out a place for that and put it in here somewhere.
It's awesome.
Yeah, but I mean, they went to the trouble of making a poster. They actually,
I think right here.
That's a good place.
That right
That's
there.
a good
there you
spot.
Right
Yeah.
there.
but I mean, they actually cut one of the amplifiers out of the craft. So that my point
This
is,
is in the film as well. You can see.
yeah, but my point is, it's so nonchalant at this point. When they first had it, it had to be at that level, and they became so used to it, so familiar with it, that to them it just became like another fighter aircraft or something from another country. So it must have been there a long time, is what my point is. Because look, as soon as you have something that unique, you don't let it just sit there in a hangar and be exposed to the environment and have security people walking by and people touching it. I mean, it's in an isolated, sealed, secure environment. And they were past that. So I think it had been there for a decade or decades, a long time. And these guys were intimately familiar with it, not afraid of it, and knew what was going on.
So they essentially had gotten just completely acclimated to the fact that this craft exists, that it was there, and there had been relatively little progress as far as figuring it out and figuring out what it does and how to recreate it. So it just kind of sat there. And so
I think they were making very little progress. And I think they kept going over the same road again and again, and they probably had other experts there and just didn't. And I think the reason I got hired is because I was a guy out in left field that didn't necessarily follow what was going on. I mean, the biggest distractors to me anyway, in the story, are other scientists, other physicists. Well, they would have hired me because I'm the top guy in the field. Yeah, you probably are. But I think they hired plenty of you guys, and you just kept going down the same road and didn't do anything. I think they were looking for somebody that just would have some radical idea and just to push the project forward, because everything had stalled when I got there. And I think they were just in a desperate move to make some progress.
one of the things you talked about in the first podcast that I think is really important is that the only way for science to really progress is that these various scientists have to be able to communicate, and you have to be able to share ideas, and you have to be able to collaborate. But that's not how this was run because it was so top secret. Everything was compartmentalized. Like the metallurgists weren't talking to the propulsions people, who weren't talking to if there were biologics experts.
Right.
Like everybody was
super frustrating, because I think I don't remember exactly where that started. Again, it's 40 years ago, but I think it started with the seats. And no, it started with the actual skin of the craft, because everything looked like it was made from the same material. And I wanted some information about the skin, the superstructure of the craft. And they said, no, that's restricted. We need a reason for you to. I just want to see if everything is exactly the same material. And what I call the seats in the craft, I still don't know if they're the seats, but they might be. I think it'd be hilarious if they were actually something else. But I wanted some information on those, and that was restricted information too. There were other groups working on that. So they compartmentalized stuff so much. There was no exchange of information between any groups. I mean, you could submit a written response that your supervisor, in my case Dennis, would have to carry over, and they would have to approve, and you'd get a 2 or 3 line response from the other group. But that's not how science works. Science works on the free exchange of information, and they were just killing themselves with security and it was really frustrating. It was terribly frustrating.
So was this a function of security people that are concentrated on top security that don't truly understand how collaborative science works?
Yeah, that's it right there. You can stop right there. They had no idea how that works.
Because it stands to reason that whatever that thing was made out of probably in some way interacts with the propulsion system and whatever controls that are in it, that this material has to be particularly unique.
Exactly. That's exactly my point. And I suspected the material was an electric. You know what an electric is?
No.
Okay. You know, like a magnet, a permanent magnet is like, you know, it's a magnet. It's forever, it's a magnet.
Right.
It has a magnetic field. An electret is a material that has a permanent static field to it, a static electric field to it. And I strongly suspected that the craft was made out of an electric. And I was not, because again, that's the material science guys, I was not allowed to connect that to, but that's so important to connect it to the propulsion system and how the propulsion system interacts with the amplifier or the emitters. And I wasn't allowed, the information I needed. So it was, I don't know. It was self-defeating is what it was.
It seems like they were treating it like a fighter jet or an automobile. Like in an automobile, you have the outer area, the shell of the car. You have the doors, the skins, the hood, the roof, all that stuff, which is but then you have the propulsion system, which is the engine and the transmission and the tires and the wheels and the suspension. But they're all not connected. They're connected because they're bolted together, but they have different functions.
Right.
I think the idea or the concept, at least as I'm gathering from you, is that this thing all worked as a cohesive unit.
Right. With no physical connection between, between the subsystems.
And all of it made out of the same material.
At least on the outside. It all made of the same material. And the other crafts all had the same power plant in them. So that brings to mind, like a GM plant that makes a car with a Chevy 350 and makes, a dozen different models to it.
Right.
So that makes you think about, boy, is there a factory making these things? And, your brain can just wander off in directions, but I tried to stick with just the technology.
Did you know who the metallurgists were? The people that
I saw them. I know them. And Barry, we'd go to the lunchroom. Barry would point them out,
And you weren't allowed to communicate with them at all?
Oh, hell no. You have a lab partner, which in my case was Barry, and you're allowed to talk to your lab partner, but you can't talk to any other group. That has to go through a written request, has to go to your supervisor, and he'll bring it over to them, and they'll bring it back, and so on and so forth. But that's ridiculous. That it slows down any progress you might be making.
Which is why they were probably stalled out for decades.
Yeah.
Did you ever expressly communicate to them that you theorized, at least, that this all could be connected? That there's something about the way the metal works?
Oh, we all knew that. Because we'd get requests from other groups. And you could tell they're desperate, just like we are, and fighting against the system.
What kind of requests would you get?
Just exactly what we found out. Where is the energy being transferred here? If the reactor fires up, is there a field present around it, or is the field just absorbed into the emitter and you can touch the, reactor itself? And just little things like that, if, and actually that was an important thing. When the reactor's operating, is it perfectly tuned, the emitter, to where it removes all the energy from the reactor and pushes it out the bottom? And the answer to that was no. I remember that as a specific request from one of the groups. The metallurgy group is the one that we really wanted to hear from. And some of the group, I don't even know what some of the other groups were. But
How many groups were there?
I don't know. There were only 22 people there total, including myself. So
I would like for you to tell Joe, one of the things that also interested me, because I built the craft, is how the waveguide worked with the ceiling and in the interior and how it blended. If you can explain, there was no telescopic.
Well, this is why we wanted to talk to the metallurgist people. The reactor that sits on the bottom of the craft has a little dome over it, and there's something that looks like a pipe that's slight. You can lift it up and take the reactor out, put the reactor in, and lift it down. But you know, like a antenna works on an old walkie-talkie.
Mm-hmm.
It has different sections.
There it is. There's from the video.
There it is.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you can retract the pipe, but there's no sections, and it doesn't get any thicker. It just becomes smaller. And if you look underneath, where the emitters hang down, they turn. It doesn't buckle. It's a magical material. This is the basis of the craft. Is really the material that it's made of. It's amazing the way it works. You can push it into a smaller volume, and it doesn't change at all. It doesn't get bigger physically. It's I don't really know how to describe it.
So you're lifting the pipe up and down, but it's not going anywhere?
Look, if you had a big pipe
Mm-hmm.
and you push it together, it has to get thicker.
Right.
Because the material has to go somewhere. This doesn't. Okay? It stays in exactly the same dimensions. It just becomes smaller.
How?
Well,
Yeah.
Because you couldn't talk to the metallurgist, so you have no idea.
Yeah, but those guys knew how.
They did know how.
Well,
they know it did it.
They know it did it, and that's their job. So I imagine they have more information than I did. But that was fascinating. It really was. And the waveguides that hold the emitters, they come down, and the emitters can turn and bend, and the pipes bend, and nothing changes in them. And there's no wires or anything to make the pipe bend. I'm trying to relate it to something, but I can't think of anything to relate it to.
Well, one thing that you said that I also thought was fascinating, there's no seams. So everything looks like it's 3D printed.
Again, right, it comes down to the material.
Which at the time, 3D printers weren't real, right?
Yeah, at the time that really confused me. I said, how did they build this? It must have been built out of wax or something and then melted. Because you can't build anything without seams. And then 3D printing came into existence, and you could build stuff from layers up. That made sense. Some sort of 3D printer, or they grew it, in some. Of course, it's not a crystalline fashion, but I don't know how that was fabricated. But it was fabricated different than anything that we have. I don't even think it was 3D printed.
And so you never got any inkling or any understanding of what the metal was, what kind of an alloy, what it consisted of?
All I can say, it was cold to the touch because when I touched it, but I can't say if it was a ceramic or I'd say it was metal because it was cold.
Because it looks like metal. And
it looks like metal.
This is the Designs by Perry version of it. How much does that look like it?
No, it's 100%. That's it. Yeah,
it's got to have the first ripple supposed to be black.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah. So
Luigi has gone over this.
I mean, I built
so many
this thing.
times.
So,
yeah. There's an insulator ring in there.
Jamie, show what it looks like in the film. If you could show one of the images.
I was pulling it off the trailer, and
They might not. They've been holding that back. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, on the trailer,
There's
a
a
couple
ring.
of shots.
I got it,
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, there's a ring around it, and we measured the voltage on the craft, and there was a high voltage on it. And above that ring, there is
This is not a good shot. There's
Yeah,
probably
it's
a.
very quick, man.
This is the original trailer. It's the new trailer that would actually, yeah, that one there, and you'll get to see it right there. Actually, right after this, well, it's actually before this, I believe. You're gonna see the craft, and if you see, there's a black, right? There's like a black line. It's the first ripple. That's actually not metal.
Yeah, we call that the. Yeah, there it is. That's a good shot.
Yeah.
We call that the insulator ring because below that there's a high voltage present on the craft all the time, and above that there isn't.
I would imagine that your life has like two completely different chapters. Is before this and after this. Whereas like once you see it, the whole rest of your life is now going to be very different. And you were in its presence for how long did you work there for?
I don't know, maybe 6 months or so.
So for 6 months, you're around this thing, and I would imagine it has to occupy your thoughts 24 hours a day.
Well, at the time it did, for sure. It's actually 3 stages to the life. It's before it, during, and after it. Before it was just my life. During was when it happened. And then the after part of my life is almost trying to dismiss it, to just go on.
Yeah, you didn't talk about it for a long time. I mean, you did the George Knapp interviews. You talked about it a little. You made some videos explaining things and how things worked.
No, I don't really like public attention, and I don't really like doing interviews, as you probably know. And, but I know there's people that thrive on that stuff. But I felt privileged to be part of the project. But it left me with an insatiable appetite. Oh, my God, I want to know where it's gone. Look, even when I was there in the 80s, they were talking about moving the project at that time. So I'm dying to know, is it still there? Has it moved on? So did they split it up and move it to other places? Yeah, I remember Barry talking about moving it to the South Pacific, like in Kwajalein or something, but they said the expenses were so great they couldn't do that, but they wanted it away from everybody. And they hated the fact that it was right alongside the highway in Nevada, by south of Area 51. But that's the best place they had at the time and the most affordable. And, of course, now with, budgets being so tight, who knows where it is.
Well, who knows if budgets are tight for this, though? I mean,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, they did say, at whatever expense, figure this out.
Yeah, they were serious about that. We don't really care what it was. So like the original Apollo program. Back in the Apollo program, if they needed parts, and if somebody had something ordered UPS or through the mail or whatever, they had the authority to stop that shipment to that other person and take their stuff if they needed it. And, they had an unlimited budget. I mean, if you're working like that, you could do anything. And
or at least anything that's currently possible with today's technology.
There you go.
Which therein lies the problem, is that they're dealing with something that's not possible with, you couldn't build it from scratch with American technology in 1989.
No, but that's what they wanted to do. And really thinking about that now, I'm not sure, I'm not exactly sure these guys should be allowed to do that. This is really powerful technology, and the world has really changed. I mean, we have a lot of crazy people doing stuff now, and nonsense transmits through the population at the speed of light. And, I don't know, this can be a very powerful world-conquering technology. And look, for 40 years, I think I've said this before, for 40 years, all the people in control of this information have all agreed to keep it quiet. And these aren't idiots. these aren't idiots for 40 years. You have a line of people that all have agreed, no, let's not say anything. No, let's not say anything. No, let's not say anything. There has to be a reason why. And if they all agreed to that, maybe I'm the asshole. No, really. Maybe they're right. And
maybe you would have figured that out if you kept working for them.
yeah, I don't know. But I'm increasingly thinking I'm the one that made the mistake. Maybe this is supposed to be just kept quiet.
Yeah, but that doesn't ring true. Because I don't think it's ever healthy if small groups of individuals have information that would change our understanding of where we are.
Yeah, there's that. There's that.
I don't think they deserve it. I don't think it's right. I don't think it makes any sense. I think you have an obligation.
I mean, really, but really think about it. What if it's something that's really dramatic?
Like how so? Like, what do you think would be like?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, what if it's? I'm not saying this is what it is, but I mean, what if it's like? You know, like we raise cows out in a field and just feed them grass, and they're just going to be food. What if it's something like that? What if we're just like, you know, a population of creatures that are just to be consumed in some way?
I don't know if we're to be consumed, but I do think we are.
Not physically consumed like eaten, but I mean.
I think we have a task. And I'm more and more convinced as time goes on that we were engineered. I don't think we came about as a normal evolutionary process like all the other animals.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I really agree with that too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that think that. It just doesn't make sense objectively. I mean, without seeming like a kook or someone who buys into conspiracy theories, if you just look at all the other biology on Earth, why is one so uniquely able to manipulate its environment, communicate instantaneously at distance, can't really even exist in its environment in most places that it lives without clothes and shelter? We're a weird animal. We're very strange. Like, we don't seem to have normally adapted to our environment with the way we've completely controlled our environment with air conditioning and electricity and electronics and flight and travel. We're so beyond everything else that evolved. Whereas every other animal, predator or prey, plant eater or meat eater, all seems to cohesively exist inside of its ecosystem. And then you have us, which is like almost like an invasive species. Like, invasive species destroy ecosystems, like, because they don't belong there. Mm-hmm. Well, that's kind of what we do. Like, we suck all the fish out of the ocean. We pollute the rivers with our technology. We, mess up underground water systems with fracking and drill. We're like an invasive species in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're really weird.
I can't argue with that at all.
Yeah, this Tim Burchett thing. So Tim Burchett has recently been talking about this, and that he can't talk about it because it's classified, but he said you'd be up at night with the things that I've seen if the things that I've seen have released. Yeah. He said, we just need you to disclose it all. I'm sick of it. I was briefed, and I will tell you this. I was briefed last week on an issue, 2 weeks ago, and it would have set the earth on. This country would have become unglued, I think, if they would have heard all that I heard.
Well, this is what I was talking about.
Yeah.
If, it's not like there's a bunch of space brothers coming down going, oh, look what we discovered, here, have some information. And, what if it's not that? What if all the information is bad?
Well, what would be bad? Like, have you ever thought about this? Tried to, like, play it out to its natural conclusion? Like, what do you think the scenarios could be that's bad?
I don't know. Everything that look, we view ourselves at the top of the food chain. What if we're not anywhere near there?
I don't think we are.
Okay. What if we're just consumables?
Well, I don't know if, like, chimpanzees are consumables, right? They're not at the top of the food chain either, right? But
no, but there's. I would consider them substantially lower than we are.
Right.
Like my my good friend that died, John Lear, who had a bunch of crazy thoughts. I mean, he used to come over and tell us that, on the moon there was a soul sucker. And when you... He did. He said this, you better give me that bottle.
Have another drink before you explain this one. Oh, boy. A soul sucker.
Yeah.
John Lear was an eccentric individual. I'm
Yeah,
kind of
but-
sad I never met him.
Man, he was...
Supporting evidence.
He was a...
What? Terrence McKenna
Soul
talking
catcher.
about the moon being a
Moon's
soul catcher?
Oh, my.
Yeah, yeah. No, and he'd give me pictures
Okay.
of these giant antennas on the moon. And in fact, I'll tell you a story. He, he was an accomplished pilot, had many world records and things of that. Part of the Lear family. That his father invented autopilot, the 8-track tape, all kinds of stuff. And but John Lear was a loose cannon. At the time, he'd fly from Las Vegas and shuttle L-1011s, which are giant planes, back and forth. And he'd say, be kind of lonely. He goes, hey, you want to go to Minneapolis tonight? He'd call me like at 9 o'clock at night and say, well, no, not really. Come on, fly with me. He said, just put on a suit and, come to so-and-so. And I'd go to McCarran Airport and, go there. And, I'm going to tell everybody you're, an inspector from the FAA. And I went, okay, great. And I'd get on the plane and they said, just act like you're, going to kick everyone's ass. So I go on there and I'd sit they fold down a jump seat behind the plane and I just sit there looking at everybody and God, all this stuff is so illegal. And, get on there and fly and, John would take, and the L-1011 was a pretty advanced plane at the time. This was in the 80s. And, John would be smoking his pipe. He'd take off. He'd put his feet up and smoke his pipe, and he'd fall asleep. And I'd just be, hanging out there. And, before the plane would land, he'd just, wake up and, be smoking his pipe, and the, plane would land itself. At the time, my wife was taking flying lessons, and he said, yeah, bring her up here. And I think they had an engineer also on another panel. I don't quite remember, but I was there with my wife. There were people on board, and he'd say, "Hey, come on here and take the wheel." And he'd get the captain of the plane, which, I think my wife was in her 20s at the time, and just sit her down and say, "Yeah, hold on to it," and just keep correcting. And he'd just let her fly the plane, which is insane. And the co-pilot would just look over, and I remember looking over at, I think, the engineer that looked at the gauges, and he just put his head down and pretended like nothing was happening. And that was just one time. Another time he was ferrying an L-1011 going by Roswell. At the time I was living in New Mexico, and they called him and told him he wasn't getting paid, that the company was, defaulted or something like that. And he was coming up to New Mexico and landed at the Roswell, just took the plane and landed at the Roswell airport. The whole 1011, got off, walked out, walked up to a bus station, gave me a call on the payphone and said, "Hey, Bob, I'm coming over." Okay, you're in New Mexico? Yeah. And he drove up. Taxi would drop him off at the house. He walked in. He went, "Boy, I'm tired." And he'd just lay down on the couch, and go to sleep. And I said, "What are you doing here? What's going on?" "Oh, I just dropped the plane off. They're not paying me." And, that's it. But, I mean, John Lear was such like a loose cannon. He was a great friend to have, but he had no bullshit filter. If he had a retired general come up and give him all kinds of information, or if he had a psychic come up from, the neighborhood and give him all kinds of information, he'd put him in the same category, And so he really did have useful information that was difficult to get, but it was mixed up with nonsense.
Right.
And sometimes he would just really lean into that nonsense. Like he was convinced that the sun wasn't hot and there were people living inside. And I used to die laughing. I went, you are insane. I said, you can't prove it's hot. Yes, I can. Just go outside, on a hot day, and John said, that's not the sun. That's just the sun's atmosphere that's on fire. And I said, you're just crazy. But we got along, and he knew that I thought he was crazy. But the thing is, a lot of people did come to him and give him good information. Anyway, I don't remember where I was going with this story.
That's the thing about some people. Some people will tell you nonsense, and then they'll tell you true things. And it's difficult to accept that true things also come from people that say nonsense.
Right.
Like, just because they've said something that's nonsense doesn't mean necessarily that this thing they're saying is not true. This other thing. Mm-hmm. And you've got to be able to discern. You've got, like, I talk to a lot of people that say a lot of kooky things that don't make any sense, but then they'll say something that rings true. And it's difficult because you have to have some sort of an understanding of the human psyche and of those kind of people, because there are kind of people that have very loose nets.
You're counting on their filter working like yours.
And it doesn't.
And no, it doesn't.
Some good stuff gets in there, and you go, hold on, what'd you just say?
Right.
Tell me that again. How does that one work?
Yeah, you can't really discount people because somebody comes up with some absolute nonsense.
Right.
It just means their filter is defective.
Right.
But
which is also the reason why they're willing to entertain things that are outside of the normal spectrum.
Right.
So, like, they might have actual, real, useful information, but it's wrapped up in there with Bigfoot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But so the soul catcher thing.
That's where I was going. The soul catcher. So I remember him sitting, and I think he was telling my wife Joy this story because I walked in on it. And he said, yeah, there are these giant antennas, and when you die, your soul goes up. And I think he said the Greys, this alien race, set up this soul catcher, and that's what this whole thing is about. And as you die, it sucks your soul in, and they use it in some way. And it's not where your soul is supposed to go. They just, set some sort of intercept.
Did he say where your soul was supposed to go?
No.
No,
he was just more really into the soul catcher.
But that was one of the weirder things about some of the documents that you had at least been alerted to when you were on the base, and one of them being that humans are containers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and
which the likely conclusion is containers of souls. If a soul is a real thing, whatever
that's what you would think.
Right. I mean, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
but it's just a guess.
I would prefer to believe that's not true. But maybe it is. I don't know. As Barry said, they mix absolute nonsense in there. So and it's unique to each person. So if you give out any information and they go, we heard some stuff about soul catchers. Oh, we know that came from Lazar. So that's just a way where they can direct where it came to. But
then the problem is, like, decades and decades, generations and generations of people working there. How many people know what the real truth is, and how many people know?
I don't know. I mean, there must be a group of people that really have the pure information of what's going on.
I would assume, but not necessarily. I would think
there has to be a group of people that know what's going on, and
who are those people?
And to me, like I was telling Luigi, I have a bunch of questions for me,
Right. Like, what would be your questions for you if you met you?
Yeah. Now, questions for me are people that ask me over decades the same questions. Why is it the Navy? The Navy paid me. I always said everything has been the Navy instead of the Air Force because, back in the 60s and 70s, there's Project Bluebook and the Air Force and all that, but everything associated with this was the Navy. So, and in these days, you hear some of these new types of craft that are
Transmedium.
Yeah, you hear the word transmedium, and David Fravor, Commander David Fravor, with the Tic Tac, and things are under the water, and supposedly the craft that the sport model was an archaeological recovery, and that itself was underwater. So what is the deal with the water? I mean, it's by far the biggest medium of the planet. I mean, if you want to hide people down there, almost an entire civilization down there, you could do it in the ocean, as long as you do it deep enough and away from people. So, yeah, number one is, what's the deal with the ocean? That's probably the number one question.
Because there's a ton of sightings where people see things come out of the water and go into the water.
Yeah, there has to be a reason for that.
Well, it just, in terms of if they have the ability to travel through space, if whatever that thing is really does create some sort of a gravity bubble or some sort of a space-time bubble.
Yeah, but maybe it's not space. Maybe it's not space. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's another dimension. There's really no limits. If you can start manipulating physics in that way, you can bend time. You can open doorways into other dimensions. So maybe it has nothing to do with going. Look, we all want it to be like Star Trek.
Right.
Because Star Trek is really understandable.
Right.
You go out there, you fly to another planet, you meet the people there, you go to another one. Well, these guys are happy, those guys aren't, and it all makes perfect sense. I don't really think it's like that. Look, if you look in history, especially, in United States history, anytime a superior race or intelligence meets with an inferior one, it's never good for the inferior guys. Never. We never come over and go, oh, we just want to teach you guys everything that we know.
Right.
No.
Nope.
It's like, we're going to rape all your women, take all your stuff, and then just kill you.
Use your resources.
Yeah, right. And just consume everything you want. That's just always the way it goes. Now, maybe that's just what humans do, but I would be concerned that's what all life does.
Well, we are territorial primates, and that makes sense that that's what we do. The thing that always fascinates me about particularly the Greys, they seem to be genderless, and they seem to have no muscle at all. They seem to have enormous heads, and the stories, at least, the anecdotal accounts of people having communication with these creatures is that they communicate in some way telepathically.
Yeah.
If you transcend all of our weird biological needs, like all the things that are attached to being a human being, ego, lust, greed, desire to conquer, desire to control resources, all those things are territorial primate instincts. In one of the conversations I had yesterday with my friend Theo, we were talking about like what's happening to people's bodies is that people are slowly, we're consuming microplastics and phthalates and all these things that are reducing our reproductive system, our testosterone's dropping.
Right.
All this stuff like leads you to say, well, where does this go ultimately? Like, well, how many more people are autistic now than were before? It's 1 out of 12 boys in California now. It used to be 1 out of 10,000 just a few decades ago. Like, we're moving into this very weird direction without us recognizing it.
Let me stop you there. It's 1 out of how many?
1 out of 12 boys in California are diagnosed autistic now.
But do you think that might be the way they're diagnosed?
No, I think it's exposure. I think it's exposure to chemicals, vaccines, environmental toxins.
You think that too? Yeah.
I think that.
It's not just me. There's tons of studies, in a lot of buried studies too.
Okay, I mean, if that's accurate, that's frightening. Yeah.
Well, it is. It can't be just diagnosed because I mean, I know so many people that have nonverbal autistic kids, where I didn't know anybody that had nonverbal autistic kids when I was younger.
Well, I mean, back in the 60s and 70s, there were no kids with ADHD. Kids that were like that were just assholes.
I think that's still the case. I don't think ADHD is a real diagnosis. I think it's a real excuse to give people medication. I think ADHD is essentially a superpower. What ADHD is allows you to concentrate on things that you really enjoy, but you cannot concentrate on things you don't enjoy.
Okay.
I think I have it. And I think I'm very fortunate that I'm not diagnosed and medicated or was born in the right time when they weren't doing that as much.
No, I'll stop you there and say I agree that that's a superpower too.
Because it's very unusual. I can, if I find a thing that I like, I can lock in and concentrate on it for 12, 14 hours with no sleep, no food. All I need is like water or coffee, and I'm locked in.
I locked in for 4.5 years.
I know.
I think with ADHD is you're taking kids, you're putting them in a completely unnatural environment. You're making them sit down. They don't want to sit down. They're very active and energetic. You're making them study things by very unenthusiastic teachers. They don't want to pay attention. They're fucking off in class because they're completely bored. And then you're saying, that kid's got a problem. We have to diagnose him. And then what do you give him? You give him Adderall. And all of a sudden the kid's locked in because they're on fucking speed.
Yeah.
And I just think...
Yeah, but if you focus in and let them do what they're interested in...
Give that kid a video game. Watch him play it for fucking 10 hours with no food. Because that's what happens. Because that's something that they're actually engaged with. It's not that they can't be focused on anything. They just don't focus on things they enjoy. And we want to turn people into nice little factory workers. And the only way to do that is you got to get a kid to comply. You got to get a kid to pay attention, follow the rules.
We're on the same channel.
It's a really great point.
I don't believe that ADHD is a real thing. I just think there's some people that are wired differently, and they should pursue different things in life.
Right.
The difference between that and autism is very different. And autism is, especially when it happens like almost directly after multiple vaccinations. There's a lot of them they point to, particularly the MMR vaccine. There's quite a few. When you look at the schedule of vaccines and how it ramped up, and it completely correlates with the ramping up of the diagnoses of autism, but without casting aspersions or getting into some anti-vaccine conversation.
Wait, you just did.
I did. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, but ultimately the human race is moving into a very weird place. So I had a conversation with Shanna Swan, Dr. Shanna Swan, who is, she studies environmental endocrine disruptors. So various toxins, phthalates, microplastics, and plasticizers that are completely disruptive to people's endocrine system, reproductive system. And from the introduction of these petrochemical products in the 1950s and 60s, you see a direct correlation between the dip in testosterone rates amongst men, the increase of miscarriages and infertility, and then on top of that, the actual shrinking of their taint. So one of the ways they find out the difference between mammals, some mammals in particular, when you see a baby mammal, the difference between a male and a female is easily recognized by the size of the gap between their anal hole and where their genitals are.
But that could just be correlation. It's like...
No. I'll explain why it's not. Because when they've done studies where they've used phthalates, particularly phthalates, and they've introduced them specifically, purposely into certain mammals and rodents, their taint shrinks. And their taint shrinks and their penis size shrinks. And there's studies on alligators, where alligators, when they live in polluted rivers, they have smaller penises. And she talked about all this. And all this, these are endocrine disruptors that are in the environment that are doing something that reduces fertility. And it changes the way the human biology functions. And it makes men more feminine, and it makes women less fertile. Well, ultimately, when you look at the Greys, what do they look like?
Yeah,
they look like they have no genitals. They look like they have no sex. They have that might be where biology has to go to transcend away from our territorial primate biology. Our territorial primate biology that is insistent on war and violence and
and we think this is the place to stay.
Exactly.
And it may not be.
It may not be.
Yeah.
It may be completely non-beneficial to all life.
Right. Right.
That we have to transcend that.
Yeah.
And well, we are transcending it whether we like it or not. And what I was saying is that I don't know if it's a bug. I think it might be a feature of evolution. That our insistence on using plastics and technology and all of these different environmental toxins that we use to produce energy and all the goods and services that we need also are disrupting our endocrine system and changing us from being these hulking, hair-covered cavemen to being these very small, slight, autistic men that can fucking code 24 hours a day without sleep.
Right.
It seems like if you extrapolate and you naturally take that further, well, what do you get? You get really skinny things with no muscles and giant heads.
My take also, and I do agree with that, is what I find sometimes really concerning is how fast that's moving. So it's not just a question of like, is this actually, this is probably a thing, but it's moving so incredibly fast. If I look at my father's generation or my grandfather's generation and my generation, I mean, it's similar, but now it's moving so fast. I do agree with what you're saying, and I'm thinking if it's moving so fast, there could be a natural component to it, but there's an intentional component to it.
If you wanted to do something to a race to change it, like think about what we did with wolves, right? All dogs are wolves.
Yeah.
Right.
I have 2 dogs that are the furthest fucking thing from wolves you could possibly imagine.
Is that Marshmallow?
Marshall.
Yeah.
He's Marshall.
Marshall.
He might be a marshmallow. He might as well.
Oh, okay,
So I have
Marshall.
Marshall, who's a golden retriever, who's the sweetest dog of all time. And I have another dog named Charlie, who's a King Charles Cavalier Spaniel, who is even further from a wolf than Marshall. He's just a cute little fuzzy little sweetheart. They have no killer instincts whatsoever. That used to be a wolf, right? But what happened? We softened them to the point where there is something compatible with our modern life, with households and families and babies, we made them safe, and that's happening to people. It's happening to people whether we like it or not. We could attribute it to all these different factors. Oh, it's a problem. We have to remove these things from the environment. This is what's going on. Maybe. Or maybe you just look at the overall picture. There seems to be an insatiable desire for innovation and technology that human beings have. If you looked at us from afar, if you weren't a part of the human race and you're just studying us, you're like, what does this species do? Well, it makes better things. Makes better things all the time. Constantly. You know, I have a iPhone 16 here. It's not as good as the iPhone 17. iPhone 17 is better. Why don't you get an iPhone 17?
Right,
you know, it just like keeps going. It never stops. It never ends. The TVs get bigger. They get stronger. Your cars get faster. Your computer just more cores, does processing, video editing, so much quicker. Everything moves faster and better. We keep making better things. We never stop and say, you know what? Society right now, we have a lot of problems. The problems that we don't have are technology. Our technology seems completely suitable to this world that we're living in right now. Let's just stop making new things and concentrate on cleaning the rivers and concentrate on stopping crime and concentrate on educating people, concentrate on counseling for troubled young people. No, we just plow forward ahead with the one thing that we absolutely guaranteed do. We make better things. We make better weapons, better cars, faster planes. Everything we do, we make things better.
And sorry, I have to add, we do that, and we also do it in a way where it's economically beneficial to the ones that are making it because we make things break now. Think about it. We make better things, but we make them so that you have to buy the better thing after.
Right. Engineered obsolescence.
Yeah. That's also important.
Yeah, it is, because then it also, human beings have this very bizarre desire for materialism. Like, why would a thing with a finite lifespan want to accumulate objects? Like, I know people that are in their 80s that collect things. Like, what are you fucking doing with that stuff?
Yeah.
You're going to die. You have maybe like 10 summers left on Earth. And here you are collecting stamps or cars.
10 summers, no.
Yeah.
I've gotten to that.
It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, at some point you you have to bypass the accumulating stuff
Right.
part of life.
But materialism ensures a constant fueling
Yeah.
of innovation, because this is one of the things that gets people excited about collecting new stuff, is that you're going to make a better version. Like, I don't care how good your Mercedes is. It's not a 2026 Mercedes.
Right. Yeah,
It's even
exactly.
better. It has new features. It's a new thing. And so it's like all built into the human psychology, and also to this thing that I said. Like I said, if you were somewhere from somewhere else and studying this species, what does it do? It makes better things. What do sharks do? They eat things. They just swim around. They can't even stop swimming. They eat things. What do people do? They really just make better things. They go to war. Why do they go to the war, really? They go to war so they can control resources, so they have more money, so they can make more things and better things. And also the amount of innovation that is in warfare, in war weapons, and war fighting.
Yeah, that's actually critical
Yes.
to keep the system going. Yeah.
Well, ultimately, all that does, all of it releases more endocrine disruptors, more contact with all these different chemicals and toxins, feminizes men, ruins women's reproductive systems, to the point where ultimately we say, oh, for the survival of the race, we're going to have to figure out how to reproduce non-biologically.
When I first got involved in, it's
It's something to ponder, right?
Yeah.
It's something to
Right.
ponder because we're so wrapped up in who we are. We're so wrapped up in, look, I love being a person. I love living in Texas. I love driving an American car. I love all those things. But what does that mean? Like, what is that? What is that? You know, these are just weird identity points that you connect with whatever this species is. But if you just could just have a above view, and you look down and you go, what are we doing?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
yeah, like how far are we going and how fast are we going there?
We're going pretty fucking fast. And now with AI, I think we're going way faster than we even understand. Because with Claude, I mean, they think that the Claude AI, the engineers, we think it's sentient already. It just doesn't have a physical body to move
Look,
around.
AI is going to kill us. Everybody agrees with that. There's no question.
I don't think it's going to kill us. You know what I think it's going to do? I think it's going to prevent us from breeding. I think it's going to let us die off.
Well, that's going to kill us,
But I think
Joe.
we're going to willingly go with it because we're going to get like mates, like ex machina. We're going to just something
Look,
that takes
as soon
care
as
of
they
you.
come out with a female robot
Yeah.
that's sexually attractive
It's
or
over.
whatever,
Yeah.
Game over.
The game over.
Game over.
There's just going to be
Yeah.
no more babies, and
Yep.
we're just going to die out.
Yeah.
So
Or integrate. And I think it's much more likely that we integrate. And that's where you get the grays. I think what the grays are is a combination of technology and biology. And if you just go
it
from
could very well be.
chimp to gray, you go, oh, I see where that's going. Chimp, caveman, human, modern human, gelatinous, soft, slow-moving, weak modern human, grays.
Look, I've always leaned into what Barry told me because it's the only information I had, that the craft came from Zeta Reticuli, which is a star system 30 some odd light years away, and again, it was just like a Star Trek thing. They came over here for whatever reason, but that information may not be true.
Right, that information might be one
Yeah.
of those things they put
I
in
mean,
that's nonsense.
Again, if it has to do with time, I think from what George has told me, Jacques Vallée and some other really credible researchers have said that these are people either from another dimension or another time, or maybe they're us from the future.
Right.
Just coming back to interact with us in some way.
Make sure we don't fuck everything up irreparably.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like they're doing a good job.
Well, maybe fucking things up somewhat is also part of the plan. Maybe that actually has to take place.
I mean,
in order
holy
to
cow!
disrupt.
Look at the way things are going right now.
Right,
Holy cow!
Exactly. But
Things are off, totally off the rails.
But maybe that's part of the plan. Maybe part of it is like it has to get so far sideways that we realize how fucked up everything is that we start making meaningful changes and implement AI as government.
That's a dangerous thing.
Exactly. But is it as dangerous as Iran getting nukes? I don't know. Is it as dangerous as
Look,
a global
Iran's
Islamic
not.
caliphate? No, it's not Iran. I'm just
Iran's
saying-
not getting nukes. I mean,
Okay, but what if
they never mind. I don't want to get into political stuff.
No, but you could. You could. Look, if you gave Iran the technology to get nukes, they would take
Everyone has any physicist has the technology to get nukes.
Right.
I mean, the difficulty is actually making the material. So, I mean, if I was Iran, I would enrich to 80 or 90% because that's where you can make a weapon, and stop there.
Right.
I
It's
mean,
not like they would be the only people with
Yeah.
the weapon. Pakistan,
but
India, North Korea.
But that doesn't make you have a weapon. It just gives you a shortcut to it. And making a weapon from there and being able to deliver a weapon, to 4,000 miles away, good luck with that. That's a big deal. So,
right, but they're in communication with China, who has that. They're in communication
well,
with
then
Russia,
they don't
who
need
has
to.
that.
They don't need to enrich uranium or do anything. They just can you give me a missile and
Right, but wouldn't they rather make their own? But
No.
but it's not even the point.
rather make their own. Why would you do that? Would you rather make your own car or just somebody give it to you? No. Why would you do that? You got a buddy that'll just give you one.
Because you'd want to be self-sufficient. You'd want to have your own
You can
production
always
where
do
you don't have
that.
to rely on someone.
No, you can always do that. You can always do that.
Okay.
I don't think they were ever gonna. They're gonna absolutely make a weapon now
Right.
because we're kicking their ass. As everyone has learned, I guess you have to have nuclear weapons now to
Right.
But this is a really bad situation.
Oh, it's a horrible situation.
Yeah.
But my point is, why is this situation taking place? The situation taking place is because human beings suck. Right? We suck in how we interact with each other.
Yeah,
we
I
suck.
know.
We suck because we're territorial
Yeah.
primates with weapons of mass destruction.
Can't we just all get along?
Right. Well,
yeah, right.
what is the way to stop that from ever happening? Well, one, you let a catastrophe unfold, and then you offer a solution to make sure these catastrophes never unfold again. Well, what's the best solution? Well, we have something far smarter than people that will take over control of resources in government.
AI.
AI.
Yeah.
I
This
think
is Colossus. You ever seen the movie Colossus?
Gotta watch it.
Well, that's
When
a
was that movie
demerit
from?
against
Okay.
you. Yeah. The movie Colossus was a 1960s or 70s movie, and it's about the scientist makes deep inside this mountain a computer to take over the defense of the United States, and they build this gigantic computer inside Cheyenne Mountain or something similar to it, and they flipped the switch and they went, okay, we're protected, we're in good shape. And shortly after time goes on, they realize, wow, the computer's really performing better than we expected. And as it turns out, Russia had done the same thing, and the computers want to communicate together. And they start communicating, and then the United States goes, well, they might be giving our secrets away, so we better cut the communication line. And the computers freak out and they go, well, I guess we'll just launch nuclear bombs, at everybody. And it launches weapons and, it essentially holds everybody hostage. But
It's kind of like a trap.
Yeah,
If we go that way, it could trap us.
It's exactly a trap.
Well, in simulated war games, AIs use nuclear weapons.
They
like
98% of the time.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
because
Isn't that crazy?
why wouldn't they? Because I mean, look, the goal is to win,
Right.
and we're going to present you with the scenario, and they go, okay, nuke them.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you pick that? You going to start with slapping them in the face?
Well,
no,
why is it better to just bomb them over and over and over again until you achieve the same
that's
amount
the
of
slap in the
deaths?
face. Nuke them. It's over with. We can move on from there.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, you think about what happened in Gaza. Like, you look at the leveling of all those buildings, the
Unbelievable.
mass destruction.
It's terrible.
It looks like a nuke.
Yeah.
It looks like one nuke instead of thousands of missiles and bombs. Is
But,
one nuke.
but it's not.
Right.
Mhm.
In terms of the amount of damage it could do instantaneously.
Because we can detect a nuke.
Was there ever any conversation that you were privy to where they discussed? Because one of the things that does come up over and over again in UFO discussions is these crafts that show up at these military bases and shut down all the weapon systems.
No, I actually know nothing about that. Most of the UFO stuff or UFO lore that I've heard, I don't know anything about. I've just looked at it and found
That's so
it
fascinating
interesting.
because you're the most prominent figure in all of UFO
That's what I was
lore.
telling him yesterday.
Yeah, but I really only like to talk about what I know about.
Right, of course.
And I've heard, I've heard other stories, but I've never heard them officially. I don't know if they're really real.
What's one of the things that makes you most credible? Because you're not a UFO.
I
guy.
guess, but
No,
I mean,
yes, it does with me. Because when people are like way too into it, they want to believe too much. You know.
yeah. But no, I don't know.
Like, do you
anything
know who
about
these
that.
people are?
Yeah, Betty and Barney Hill.
Okay. Well, so you know. A
Yeah,
little bit.
they were the first
Yeah,
abductees.
yeah.
I mean, to me, they're. I don't know who first introduced those to me, and I looked them up, and people say, "Do you believe them?" And I'm kind of inclined to believe them because look, in the 1960s, right, where they're from, the last thing you want to do is be recognized as a mixed race couple, right? I mean,
Right, and go public with
Yeah.
a story.
yeah, I mean, holy
Yeah,
cow,
that was a
they
big
would
thing.
hate you.
Yeah.
A black person and a white person that were, in any kind of relationship. But
And
yeah,
have
they
this
did that.
crazy story.
Yeah,
And you hear their
and
hypnotic
actually,
regression.
on top of that, I have a connection to
Yeah.
that because Barry said they're from the Zeta Reticuli star system, and I believe
Betty.
it's Betty Hill drew a map of the Zeta Reticuli star system and said this is part of their roots.
Whoa.
But
Did you know that?
You didn't know
No,
that?
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay, if you
I
look that
remember
up-
it from what you said from
Okay,
your
but if
story.
you look up in Betty and Barney Hill, she said, I think, I don't
Well,
know
I
if
know
I
the
can ever get
story.
this stuff right.
Yeah.
They show her a map and they say, well, this is a map. She wanted to know why they were here, what's going on. They showed her a map, am I
Yeah,
right?
they showed her a map.
And they said, do you understand this? And she said, no. And they said, well, why should we tell you anymore? And well, I don't know, maybe you
it's
could
something
fill it
like
in.
that. But they showed her this star map, and she obviously
is.
There
Look
it
at
is.
that.
Yeah.
Under hypnosis, Betty Hill describes a map she was shown by the leader aboard the ship. Later, she sketched it. She said she was told that the heavy lines marked regular trade routes.
That's right. Yeah.
And the broken lines recorded various space expeditions. The following year, the map seen at right was published in the New York Times. Mrs. Hill, struck by the similarity between the Times map and her sketch, then added the corresponding names. Yeah.
And it ended up being the Zeta Reticuli binary star system, which was really interesting. And I remember when I first heard about Bob's story back in 1989, and he said Zeta Reticuli, I remember thinking, wow, that's what Betty Hill saw. So that made me also question, is that real in that document? Did these guys really come from there? Because it was mentioned in 1968.
Right.
So why would the government, the U.S. Navy, write that in there that would correlate to something that we already kind of knew? I think that was a purposeful disinformation to disinform someone. I think so.
But why? If maybe it's true. Yeah, go ahead. We'll pause right here and use the
Okay.
restroom. We'll be right back,
I
folks.
really got
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
I
Sorry.
get it. No worries. No worries. We'll be right back. We were talking about this whole Zeta Reticuli thing. So when you're dealing with so many different crafts and so many different things, the idea that only one species or one thing more advanced than us is visiting us seems kind of silly. If the universe is populated by all these things.
I don't know. Does it? Does it?
Kind of.
I mean, the universe is really big. Do you think everybody can find this place? I mean,
Yeah. I would imagine it's like spots that you visit, like there's Machu Picchu, there's ancient Egypt, there's sub-Saharan Africa. There's a bunch of different places where people go. Just humans on Earth. And I would imagine if you have an understanding of how life is evolving in the cosmos, there's probably stages where things reach certain levels. And if you are
But they're far apart.
Right?
They're far apart. I mean, one could be in this quadrant of the Milky Way galaxy, and they reach that point where they can travel and explore. And there's a far distant point where another civilization can do that. And I mean, really, do you think there are that many? I don't think there are that many civilizations visiting us. There's no doubt that there's one from somewhere, another planet, another time, another dimension, whatever it may be. Someone else is here. We're not the top, of the pyramid.
No.
We're absolutely not there. There's no question.
Well, I think if you got technology that, let's just say the Greys. Let's say the Greys are real. Let's say they fly around these little crafts. Why would we assume that it stops there? Why wouldn't we assume that technology gets to the point where not only are they far more advanced than them, but they also are completely undetectable?
Well, if you want to view the universe as infinite,
Yeah.
then it never stops.
It scales
There's
out.
somebody above them, and there's somebody above them, and there's somebody above them, and it never stops.
I was watching this lecture where this woman was talking about quantum entanglement, and she was talking about how maybe our understanding of space and the distance between things is limited by what our current technology is and our current understanding of what space and time actually are. And she was saying, what she was saying is there might not be, we might at one point in time, given enough time, thousands of years or whatever, be able to instantaneously travel anywhere. And that just how quantum, like subatomic particles are connected in some sort of a strange way that we don't totally understand, even at far spooky action at a distance, right?
As Einstein said,
Right.
yeah.
That we might eventually get to a point where that's how travel works. That's instantaneous travel everywhere.
I think we just have hints of these technologies.
Yeah.
Look, everything, we look at Maxwell's equations and things like that we base all electromagnetic, electrostatic, actions on, and how they relate to time and how they relate to things in our universe. But that may be nothing. There may be an entire level of physics that we're unfamiliar with that, these crafts, these people, or these civilizations just utilize. So,
Of course. I mean, if you just stop and
I
think
don't know.
about going from Morse code to a cell phone in a relatively short period of time historically. If you go to the difference between 1200 and 1400 is not that big of a fucking deal in terms of technology, what's available. The difference between 1800 and 2026 is fucking massive.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It is a massive, crazy change, right? So 2026 to 2226, who fucking knows what we're talking about?
Right.
Especially when you have sentient AI, you have nuclear power plants that are controlling sentient AI, that are fueling them and giving them resources. I mean, you really have no limit to where this goes. You scale out 1,000 years. You scale out 2,000 years.
You really can't scale out 1,000 years.
Right. It's
because
not possible.
Even at 100 years, it's way,
Too much.
way more than we would have ever considered.
Also, it's exponential, right?
Right. That's why you
Yeah.
can't scale out to 1,000 years.
And if you think it's exponential now, imagine when you have AI able to generate better versions of itself, which is what's happening with ChatGPT 5. It's essentially made by ChatGPT 4.
Now, AI is absolutely the death of us. There's no question.
Well, we're
There's
certainly
no
going to
question.
become obsolete in terms of our thinking. But
If we're obsolete in terms of our thinking, we're obsolete.
Yeah.
I mean, all AI needs is hands, right?
I think we integrate. That's what I think happens.
Yeah. It's a scary thing.
And that's yeah, I was gonna say, and that's a scary thought. That's a scary thought because it's like we're gonna integrate. I think it's inevitable. I think you're right about that. We're just going there.
Yeah.
It's not like even if you and I are not gonna actually do it, somebody will, and it's gonna integrate because other people will, and it's gonna happen. But it's still the same primate. We're still the same human.
Sort of, but we already have problems with joints, and so we replace them with fake ones. We take titanium knees, and
Yeah, but they don't work as good.
they don't for now.
Yeah.
But before they used to not work at all. Like
that's true.
I've met people that had surgeries in the 1980s, like knee surgeries, and oh my God, they're crippled for life. Even though they put your knee back together again, it's still destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
You get a knee surgery today, 6 months later, you're 100%.
No, I'd love to know the future.
Yeah, well, it's gonna get.
I'd love to know the future.
Well, that is so. One of the things I want to talk about is the actual generator, this thing that works on this element that bombards it with radiation. How did you guys figure out what the function of it was and what it did? So when you're first introduced to this craft and you see this dome,
The reactor.
the
yeah.
reactor that's covering this thing that's generating this power, what was the introduction to it? How did they explain it to
The
you?
introduction was way before me. And that's where the guy prior to me either got hurt or killed. So they determined that this was the power source. And at some point, they decided to take that out to the nuclear test site because they wanted to cut into it. They x-rayed it. They only found a small tube that went around it. They really couldn't determine how it worked or what was going on. So at some point, and Barry made this somewhat clear that they cut into the reactor while it was running, or while it was under load, I should say, and the reactor exploded. That's what killed or hurt the person that I replaced. But it produced the base gravitational wave or base energy that propelled the craft, that provided the craft the propulsion. I mean, when they removed it, the craft didn't work. When they put it in, every single other craft they found had something either exactly like it or similar to it. So they determined that was the power source. That's at the point that I was introduced into the project.
So when you say gravitational wave, is that for lack of a better term, or is it something that's measured? Is it?
No, it's for lack of a better term. Like there's nothing. I mean, as I said in Luigi's movie, you can take magnets with like poles and push them together and they repel, but you can't take your hands ever and push on something and they repel them. That's a force field, right? That's science fiction stuff. But that's what this did. And this produced a field that repelled the craft from the ground.
Did you try to touch it?
Yeah.
And when you try to touch
pushed on
it, what did you feel?
An elastic field. You can push down, but you can't get close to it. The closer you get to it, the more it pushes back. So you can.
Like how much distance between you and the actual thing were you able to achieve?
I would say about
6 inches or so.
Maybe about 9 inches, which is about a span. And no, it's at some point you can't push back on it at all. But the important thing is if you have a magnet, a little disc magnet sitting on the ground, and you have another magnet and you push on it, that magnet moves away, right?
Yeah.
Because it's pushing on it. But the craft didn't. The reactor didn't. If you had the reactor there and you pushed back on it, it didn't push away when you pushed on it.
It just prevented you from touching it.
Yeah, and so when Dennis said go out there and look under the craft, here's the craft, whatever it weighs, suspending itself above the ground, and I went underneath it. You would think it's translating its weight onto the ground and pushing, and I should be
Squashed.
without any doubt, but I'm not. There's no feeling there at all. So it's not translating its weight or its push to the ground and pushing off the ground. It's just canceling out its weight, which is something completely different.
And so element 115, so you have it in this triangle-shaped form. Did you ask how they got into a triangle-shaped form? Was it made like this? This is how it came in
I'm
the
sure
reactor?
I did, but I mean, it only worked like that. It worked like a stack of discs and had to be cut at a certain angle to work in the reactor. And
did they say they cut it, or did they say it was already cut?
Well, it was already cut, and they were duplicating it.
Pull that microphone up, too.
Sure.
So they were duplicating it. Did they have more of it, this element?
Yeah, they had quite a bit of it. So either there was a quantity in other crafts or other reactors that they removed. Yeah.
But was there any discussion that there had been some sort of an exchange where they had been giving this?
No.
So one of the things, like, do you know who Diana Pasulka is? She's an author that's written some interesting stuff about UFOs, and she's worked with Gary Nolan and, on material recollection from supposed crash sites. And she said that the way these researchers refer to these crafts, they refer to them as donations. And
I guess that's possible.
Right. Well, doesn't it make sense if this thing crashed, why is it perfect? Why is it not destroyed?
Look, I've heard so many. I'm not into UFOs.
Right.
As
Which
crazy
is hilarious.
as that. It's crazy. I'm just interested in the technology, and I feel very privileged to have been involved in the project. But I don't know. I don't think there can be that many crashes. Do you?
No.
This advanced technology, you think they're coming to Earth and just there's a thunderstorm and they're crashing into the ground? I'm not buying that.
There's one logical explanation that does actually make sense. There were some high altitude nuclear tests that they did. And
well, there was the Teak test, back in the 60s.
Starfish Prime.
And Starfish Prime, right.
Yeah. If you had no idea that this was about to happen and you were hovering over Earth observing us,
what are the chances? I mean, what are the chances?
They're not very high.
Yeah,
right.
They're not very. I mean, what are the chances a crash is coming over and it's a nuclear test at that exact second?
Unless there's a lot more observation than we know, and that they just observe us in a way that we can't see them. Especially if you're going back to the 1950s and 1960s. We have very few satellites. Was very
that was the nuclear cowboy era.
Yeah,
where there were just
just
woohoo.
Starfish Prime. Explain to people what they did.
Yeah, they had a 1.4 megaton, detonation up there, and I think all they did. Let's see what happens if we blow it up at this altitude.
Yeah,
I mean that's crazy. There was another test planned to blow up on the moon, just to make the Russians look. Like we were awesome, but they
detonate the moon. What if they pushed it away and it fucked up our orbit?
Yeah, I think that would take a lot more.
I know.
I mean, there was. I don't remember what the project.
Project A19.
Oh, A19. That was it. Yeah.
Study of lunar research flights.
Detonator nuclear bomb. Yeah. I can't pull up these numbers, but yeah, Project A1118.
Crazy.
Yeah, we're gonna do that because
that's
like everybody on Earth could just go outside and look up the moon, get blown up,
and the explosion would be faintly visible to the human eye to people on Earth.
Yeah.
Boy.
I still think they should have done that, but
yeah, but you're the guy that put a jet engine in the back of a Honda. Like let's see.
I honestly think they should detonate a nuclear bomb on the 4th of July every year, but that's just me.
Well, also you live in Nevada. That is more used to.
No,
at least. It had a long history of them doing that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So going back to this reactor, so How was it explained to you? Did they explain to you how the technology works or what they know about it? Like,
Now, the way it was explained to me is when I got to be alone with Barry, he said he was excited to show this to me. He said, "I'm going to turn. This is the reactor that we assume powers the craft." Sorry.
no worries.
I'm going to show you the reactor that powers the craft. And he turned it on. Small little dome on a flat little plate. I said,
Was this in the craft or was this on a
no,
table?
no, this is in the experimental area.
Okay.
And
So this was not the one that was in the sport craft. This was another one.
this was another one.
This is it right here.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
Okay,
it.
that's in the film.
And on the table, and he had it there, and he went over to the emitter and rotated it, and he said, "Try and touch it." And I put my hand on it, and it rebounded off. And the closer you got to it, the more it pushed back. And that's a real shock because there's nothing that pushes back like that. That's a living force field. That's science fiction stuff. So that really got my attention.
So explain what is happening, like in terms of the rotation of this thing. Like what is happening? Like what energy is going into it that's causing it to go on?
Well, actually, we don't know that. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's pushing back. It's a repulsive gravitational field. Like as far as we know, gravity only has an attractive force to it. We've never, even with antimatter, we've analyzed it, and it still has an attractive force to it. There's no repulsive force that we've discovered, because that would be a great propulsion system. But this repulsed. So this was a new field completely.
But how is he turning it on?
He had the emitter, which is a big pipe.
What is an emitter? Like what is...
The craft itself has, on the main level, has the reactor and what we call the amplifiers. The reactor and 3 amplifiers. Right underneath that, there are 3 emitters that are right under the amplifiers. And we believe the energy from the reactor is amplified by the emitters and
By the amplifiers.
and transmitted to the emitters. And they produce this field that lifts the craft off the ground. And that's how it works. But there is nothing even in our physics or our science that correlates to that at all.
And what is the energy that's going to them that causes it to turn on?
We don't know. I mean, we just assume it's gravity because it's the only thing we know like that. But it has a negative gravity effect. So it might be a new force entirely.
But when you were saying, so you have this machine that's next to it that you do something to that causes it to turn on.
The emitter.
Right.
There's the amplifier,
Right.
and there's the emitter, which looks like a big pipe.
Right.
And if you rotate the emitter, I don't remember how many degrees. Was it 20
degrees.
20 degrees or something like that. That connects it in some way to the reactor, and it begins to be powered.
And what is the emitter doing?
It emits that field. It's not a it could be a gravitational field, but it's an anti-gravitational field that pushes on the ground.
And what's happening in the emitter? Did you study the emitter?
Well, we attempted to, but no. There was nothing that we really came up with.
What does it look like? Like, what's the internal structure of it?
It's a hollow pipe with, I guess, little copper-colored plates all inside. It's kind of in the film.
Mm-hmm.
But there's, I mean, these guys have been working on it for years before I got there, and there was really no concept of what they were doing.
Did they explain to you why element 115 is crucial to this working? And what its role is?
No.
So element 115 was not even really discussed back when you were doing this. It wasn't even discovered or proven physically until it was a Large Hadron Collider experiment in the 2000s, right?
No, I know they synthesized that, but look, and in any element, there's always a large amount of
Well, it doesn't decay. There's the
that was the thing
isotopes.
about in the Large Hadron Collider experiment. They were able to achieve it, but it only existed for a few milliseconds.
Yeah, sorry, I've had too much.
No worries. So, did they? How did they define this material?
No, there's different isotopes of every element, and element 115, just like any other element, there can be a stable version of it and 100 or 50 different unstable elements to them. So, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Just try to continue the train of thought. So
It's basically different isotopes of it.
Yeah, different isotopes.
Yeah.
I need to stop drinking this.
It's okay. Have a cup of coffee.
I can't even remember.
Yeah, so coffee's good.
Oh, we got coffee. Oh my god. All right. Holy cow.
There you go. That'll help.
Yeah, there's different isotopes.
And you were able to physically touch this element with.
Oh, absolutely. I was physically able to touch the element. Yeah.
But when you're physically able to touch it, there's no adverse effects. It doesn't have any effect on the
No.
body. Does it feel like metal? Does it feel like
No,
plastic?
it looks copper-like. I mean, maybe it's not as dark as copper is, but it's that color. And I haven't seen an element like that. It has unique properties that other elements don't have. It produces an anti-gravitational field. Now,
when combined with energy, with some kind of energy, it produces this field.
Yeah.
And was it understood what is happening? Like, what is the relationship between this element and this? Like, what is going on? Like, you're bombarding this element with something.
Yeah. From what we understood, we X-rayed the reactor itself, and there was a path around it that looked. It made it look like a cyclotron. So it looked like there was an accelerator.
So when they were explaining it to you, is this just your work partner that's explaining this stuff
Yes,
to you?
it's just Barry that's explaining.
And did you
it to me.
ask him, how do you know this? Where are you getting this from? Is this...
Yeah, he got this information prior to me. And they X-rayed it, found a structure in there to where they believed it was an accelerator, and it was interacting. The point of the 115 is in a little triangular piece, and it was interacting with that in some fashion. So,
And did he say whether or not the United States government or whoever was doing this research had tried to recreate one of those on their own?
that was our job, to try to
Right.
recreate one of those on their own.
But what was the metal that it was made out of?
We don't know.
We don't know.
Again, the metallurgy was not. That was not.
It seems insane that you couldn't communicate to them that whatever this stuff is made out of, this whole thing acts as one cohesive unit. It's not like you could make the same exact thing with aluminum or carbon fiber.
No, you can't. This thing acted differently. This thing acted differently than any material that we knew. And I mean, I think all the answers are in the metallurgy guys. That's who knew what was going on, who was able to provide the answers. But as far as we knew, if we didn't have the connection with those other groups, we weren't really going to make any progress.
You were speculating that there was a type of metallic alloy that would work better with this concept. Was it Byzantine? Like what was
Bismuth?
it? Bismuth, yes.
Did I say that?
I don't think so.
I don't.
No?
thi-
It
no,
wasn't you?
I don't think
No.
Someone that I talked to was explaining to
It's
me.
related to on the periodic table. I mean,
Right.
bismuth is above it, and 115 is below it. But we never did see any correlation between bismuth. This was a completely new material.
Well, I think. Oh, that's what it was. Oh, this is what it was. So one of the pieces that Gary Nolan had found that was
Who's
Gary Nolan is the guy out of Stanford that has examined these pieces that are from supposedly crash sites where something had gone down and scattered. Some of these pieces, they're atomically layered. And
I've heard that.
Magnesium and bismuth seem to be prevalent. in these
Bismuth
things.
is the thing.
Yeah.
Bismuth is the thing. It's right above 115 on the periodic chart. And there's something about that. There's something about 115.
Yeah.
All this weird magnetism stuff with bismuth. There's a video from the Action Lab, the strange magnetism of bismuth. And it's
Yeah,
showing
it's
a bunch
it's
of weird-
diamagnetic. Yeah.
So let him play it out a little bit.
Oh, let's try to find those.
What is diamagnetic?
Diamagnetic is it opposes magnetic fields.
I see.
So it kind of makes sense if they're finding these pieces that are the way he was explaining.
That's bismuth. Yeah.
The way he's explaining this, whatever this alloy was, this very small piece that was found, I believe, prior to the 1970s. I don't remember the exact date that he's had from one of these crash. One of them was from Brazil that they had recovered. And someone had gotten possession of it in the 1990s, and someone had gotten it eventually to Gary Nolan. He said that to create this on Earth, first of all, it can't be done with current technology. We don't have the ability to do
The
this.
layering technology.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that it would cost billions of dollars, just theoretically, to make this. And it doesn't
remember seeing
exist.
this, yeah.
Yeah, this is it. Alleged extraterrestrial metal, the bottom of a wedge-shaped craft. In 1940s, 26 alternating layers, 1 to 4 microns, dark bismuth, with 100 to 200 microns of silver magnesium zinc alloy. Each piece received from the U.S. Army source were formed with a curvature that tapered.
Well, in the 40s. Yeah.
Right.
That good luck making
Well,
that
I
in
mean,
the 40s.
it says a
That's the point.
wedge-shaped craft in late 1940s. That's Roswell. I
Right.
mean, that's Roswell.
Or
Well, I mean, what does it do? I
Right.
would like to see the test results of just the material. We can make that now.
We can?
Yeah. 1 to 4 microns of bismuth, 200 microns of silver. Yeah.
the thing is, like, making something like that in the 1940s is absolutely
No,
impossible.
in the 40s, forget
It's
it.
impossible.
But I mean, now we could fabricate something like that.
And it would cost a shitload of money. So, like, the idea that you would make something like that and just scatter it around and go,
But
"Look."
what does it do?
Right. What does it do? Why? Why is magnesium and bismuth? Why in that particular array?
There is something about bismuth. But that's why it's so fascinating. I would love to know where they look. It's been 40 years. I would love to know
Where they're at now.
Yeah, where they're at now. If they
Yeah.
continued.
Well, they had to have continued. I can't imagine you go, we're done.
No, I mean they
Spaceships.
may have moved it. I mean, like I said before, I mean they were anxious to move it out of there at that time. But
Are you aware of the labyrinths in Egypt that they've discovered? So there's this.
are you talking about the
columns?
columns?
No.
underground?
This is unrelated. This is something different. So Herodotus discussed this. Now, my friend Ben Van Kerkwick, he has Uncharted X on YouTube. It's an amazing channel where he was a tech guy who just got absolutely fascinated by all these stories of ancient history and really got obsessed with Egypt and Peru and left his field and started making these incredible videos. But he's highly intelligent, incredibly articulate. And so these videos are just absolutely fantastic. And really, he's very well versed scientifically, so you can understand these things and explain them to you. Like, they're examining like the construction of the pyramids and the whatever technology was used to carve the stones, and there's just so much of it that is like confusing because it clearly is like a very high level of sophistication and technology that's involved in creating these things. Well, Herodotus described these labyrinths that were underground in Giza, not in Giza, but Hawara, is that where it was? Jamie will find it. But the way Herodotus described it, he said they were far superior and more impressive than the pyramids of Giza. Underground. Well, these massive labyrinths that exist underground were all flooded in the 1960s accidentally when they created dams in order to provide irrigation to agriculture that was in the area.
Okay.
So they changed the water table, fucked it up. This whole area got flooded.
Did they know they were there when they accidentally?
No, they didn't, because a lot of this stuff, like this is from thousands and thousands of years ago. A lot of it was covered over with sand, and there had been some explorers a long time ago that went there and saw some of what was in there. But the way Herodotus described it, it's just absolutely fantastic.
Interesting.
So then they started using ground-penetrating radar, and they started using these various technologies that could detect what was under the surface. And one of the things that they found was there's a massive atrium, and inside this
mentioned
atrium,
this to me.
yes, there is a 40-meter-long metallic object that is inside this atrium. 40 meters of some unknown metal.
How deep is it?
I believe it's 100 meters into the ground.
So you're telling me ground-penetrating radar can get to 100 meters underground?
The stuff that Filippo Bondi has used from satellites
The one that
gets
we were talking about.
more than a kilometer into the ground. And
with decent resolution?
well,
No.
not decent resolution, but enough that you could see symmetry. Enough that they can also detect things that are well known.
100
for
meters is
chambers. Well, listen to this. They detected accurately a particle collider in Italy that is inside of a mountain, 1.2 kilometers below the mountain. It sees through the mountain and can detect this thing in the exact diameter, the exact dimensions that this thing exists. So they can show you
And they
this. Yes.
What, a particle collider?
Yes. So this is a particle collider that they know exists, right? So this is an actual particle collider.
So they're looking for it just to prove.
So it's just proof that this technology is not just.
Well, wait. I mean, hang on. I mean, how do they know it's a particle collider?
No.
Well, no, the particle collider exists. This is the Italians have this particle collider. It's known. They made it. It's like it's
They just use-
operational.
They
just
didn't
use
detect
that
this
So they
underground.
use right.
Okay.
No, it's
Okay.
not like we found a particle collider. That didn't
okay, that's
exist.
what I thought you were
no,
saying.
No.
Okay.
So this particle
Right.
collider, they use this technology to show that you can see straight through this mountain to this particle collider that's underneath the mountain. So they know the exact dimensions of this particle collider. You can see, you can almost draw a schematic of it. Well, through this technology, they've also found these columns that are below the pyramids. These columns are 22 meters, 20 plus meters in diameter, and they have something that resembles coils around all of them. And they're positioned at various points all around where the structure is. It goes all the way down into hundreds of meters down, and then it goes to another structure, and the whole complex of it, these structures, goes to over a kilometer into the ground.
But how can you see a kilometer underground?
Well, you would have to understand this technology. Was it called radio tomography? He explained it to me.
Synthetic aperture radar, right?
Yes. Well, whatever
And
this
seeing a
technology,
kilometer underground at decent resolution?
it's not decent resolution, but it's enough to understand the scope of what it is. It's enough to understand where spaces are and where.
Like everybody knows about this but me. I mean,
It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
I'll send you the podcast, and I'll send you some of his conferences where he was explaining this to room filled with scientists.
you would think they'd be anxious to dig this up.
They are. And there's actual like studies that are
Okay.
currently being
Great.
discussed. Well, they already know that there's these channels that go in the ground that have since been covered with silt and sand because the sand's constantly moving. But these
right.
things go hundreds of meters down. These shafts that go down.
Look,
They've
if
also
they find
detected-
if they find shafts hundreds of meters down with
Yes.
coils around them, look, that's advanced technology.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the point.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is the point. Whatever this thing is that they have in an atrium, like if they said that they got that craft from an archaeological dig, I mean, maybe the Egyptians had found something similar to this thousands and thousands and thousands of years
Yeah,
ago.
I believe that's possible.
Yeah. Well,
the object that I actually got to speak to Filippo Biondi, by the way. He's in Italy, he's in Rome. We got to speak Italian, so we got to talk. And we talked about that. I had no idea they found something with a metal object down there, though.
This is not Filippo Biondi's work.
Oh,
this
pardon
is
me.
some
Okay.
different scientists that are just studying the labyrinth. Jamie, pull up some
That's
of
really
the
interesting.
schematics of the labyrinth.
So in the labyrinth, there's like a big
There's
Sorry.
a large atrium. You got to pee again?
Yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
sorry.
Head up.
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
I feel like a fucking asshole.
Don't worry about it. Get some air. Clear your head.
I have a prostate.
So in this labyrinth, there's a large atrium.
Okay.
And in this large atrium, there is essentially a tic-tac,
Really?
a tic-tac shaped object that is 40 meters long. That is of some unknown metal. They don't know what it is. They don't know how it works. But this structure is all underground in Egypt.
Which is wild because how it's 100 meters?
Well, look, we'll get a chance to look at it. This is Hawara. So there it says the 40-meter metallic object. See that where it says Hawara rising?
Yeah.
So if you click on that, it talks about the 40-meter metallic object discovered in Egyptians'
We can't read a report.
subterranean
Hawara
labyrinth.
On the video. It's just people talking about it.
Right. Got it. But so whatever it is, play out some of the video just so we could talk about it. So this whole thing, if you see some of the images that they're discussing.
With my friends Louis DeCordier
40 minutes
and
and they get
William
into the
Brown,
images, I think.
and today we're
Yeah.
about the work that I Chicago
Huh.
and the team that was in Poland as well. And at that point is when I had met the person, Lucina Lobos, who later became my wife 6 months later.
So yeah, you actually were working with the NRAG, and then
Yeah, I don't know what they're talking about here.
Yeah, this is not going to help us. But if you could just go to some of the images where they've sort of outlined
I was
what it
trying
is.
to find it. There is not a very clear image of the metallic object that.
No,
they're
that's
talking
fine.
about.
But just the labyrinth itself, what
Yeah.
they think the structure of it was.
So I don't know where they got this from. Is also the
Sneak
other issue.
peek, 40-meter mystery metal object.
That's a weird rendering that doesn't usually come out from.
Right, but there's some other drawings of like from the Herodotus days, and
Yeah, but
like so. This is what they think it looks like under the ground, which is fucking completely bonkers. And if there is some 40-meter metallic object that's under the ground, and we are talking about like this sport model being a part of an archaeological dig,
Right.
they might have found something